Wind howled off Blackwater Bay. Shredding the banners above the forward towers of Dragonstone, and driving daggers of brine against the makeshift siege lines arrayed along the desolate causeway, Robert Baratheon stood in the lee of a scorpion cart. Broad shoulders hunched inside his sodden crimson cloak, watching gray-crested waves gnaw at the basalt foundations of the Targaryen stronghold. Even in ruin, the fortress looked like a crouching worm, wings folded, waiting for one last breath of fire. The sight filled him with a restlessness that neither mead nor war songs could ease. Stannis had argued to wait for calmer weather. Stannis always argued. But Jon Arryn's ravens had flown from King's Landing bearing darker tidings each day. Loyalists rallying in Lys, sellswords in Tyrosh, whispers of visories spirited across the narrow sea. If the babe Daenerys slipped away now, the war they had clawed and bled to win might rise anew in a decade's time. Robert ground his teeth. No. It ended here, on this blasted rock, where dragon lords had once perched above the world. The royal fleet, patched together prizes from half a dozen defeated houses, rode the whitecaps below. Their masts lurched like drunkards, but 20 shields-wide boarding ramps rested ready against black hulls. Sir Davos Seaworth, lean and steady-eyed, paced the bows of the Fury, measuring the tide's fury in every swell. When he signaled, Stannis would loose the fleet. When the fleet cut the harbor chain, Robert would lead the charge across the seaward postern. Simple plans suited Robert. They left little room for debate. Behind him, the men of the Stormlands muttered nervously under their helms, stamping numb feet. Some prayed to the warrior, others to the stranger, lest Dragonstone's ancient curses find them. Robert listened to none of it. He let the patter of rain drum against his gorget. Let it wash the memories of battlefields past. Tridents reed slick with prince's blood, Ashford's orchards blooming fire. Until there was only this cliff, this storm, this last bastion. A trumpet blared, one note, then a second held long. On the harbor below, Davos' arms swept forward. Chain or no chain, the Fury plowed through churning foam like a boar through underbrush, oars biting deep. Other ships followed, iron-shod rams splintering barnacled pilings. A grinding boom echoed up the stone, followed by a cheer. The harbor chain had snapped. Stannis' precision under chaos. Robert felt a rare flicker of pride. He drew his warhammer. Its steel head, black, flanged, etched with the crowned stag, caught a flash of lightning. "Lord, sell me," he roared, though Sir Barristan had been beside him all along, helm tucked beneath his arm like a night calm at tourney. Form the vanguard. White cloaks fanned out, snow against soot. Selmy fitted his helm and strode forward wordlessly, while the king's own guard lifted shield and spear. There were fewer of them now. So many dead or fled, but their presence lent Robert a weight of legitimacy no crown could match. The portcullis groaned open from within. A wooden footbridge slid into place over the brackish moat. Out rode Maester Cresson. Stooped, cowl billowing. He raised a lantern and a parchment sealed with the dragon's three-headed sigil. Lightning revealed tears on his cheeks. "My lords," Cresson called, voice wavering in the gale, "Princess Rhaella is dead this hour in childbed. Her daughter lives, but she is but minutes old. Then surrender her." Stannis' rasp drifted across the battlements above, for he had climbed unseen to a murder hole, fitting naturally into stone-cold duty. "Open the gates and yield Dragonstone. No harm need come." Cresson's lantern shook. "Your grace." Robert pushed past Barristan, water sloshing about greaves. He was careful not to splinter diplomacy too quickly. The babe was leverage now, not trophy. "Storm's End holds your girl's mercy," he said. "In my halls she will be treated as a ward, not a prisoner, so long as no sword is raised in her name hereafter." A lie, or half of one. He would never slit an infant's throat, Ned knew that. But he would not let dragons rise again. Better the girl grow up dutiful, hidden, married safely to some placid knight, sworn to House Baratheon. The thought of killing a babe sickened him. The thought of Rhaegar's bloodline flourishing sickened him more. Cresson bowed his head. Hours later, as dawn's first purple rippled over the sea, the gates of Dragonstone opened fully. No battle drums, no flaming pitch. Only exhausted heirs of the dragon filing from broken halls with swords sheathed. Sir Garrus Drinkwater led them, white flag raised high. Robert entered last, hammer resting across his shoulders. He expected stench, ruin, defiance. Instead he found quiet ashes, hearths long cold, corridors heavy with abandoned grandeur. Black stone corridors curved like the belly of some ancient beast. Torches hissed as fresh air stirred embers. Dragon gargoyles watched unblinking from arches. The reverence of it shivered even Robert's battle-hardened heart. In the queen's bedchamber, past scorched tapestries of Valyria, he met the babe who had haunted his dreams. She was swaddled in crimson silk, eyes closed, mouth forming a perfect circle, as though to greet the world with a roar. Silver gold hairs already dusted her scalp. Her tiny hands flexed like claws. Cresson's tears fell freely onto the bundle. "This is Daenerys of the House Targaryen," he whispered. A formal introduction to the man who had orphaned her. Robert stared. He felt nothing at first. No rage, no triumph. Only a hollow ache, as though each beat of his heart asked why must children pay for father's sins. He thought of Lyanna, of the rose petals rotting in the sept at Harrenhal, and a bitterness flooded him. "Have her suckled," Robert muttered. "Send word to Storm's End for a wet nurse of stout health. And her fate, your grace?" Selmy asked softly. Robert met the old knight's gaze, saw within it the chivalry that had once bowed to dragons. "She is my hostage," he said at last. "But treat her gently, sir. She will remember the hand that cradled her more than the crown that cursed her." "Men and mo." Weeks later, the royal galley ours is the fury cut through calmer seas toward King's Landing. Autumn sun glimmered off the gilded antlers fixed to her prow, and the sails of a dozen escort ships billowed behind. Below decks, Daenerys slept in a cedar cradle carved hastily with stags and storm clouds. Gendry Waters, a burly boy of 4 whom Robert acknowledged only in private, watched over her with fascination, fingers smudged with pitch from the shipwrights. The bastard and the dragon princess, symbols of Robert's past and future, cooed at each other, innocent of politics. Above, an entirely different game unfolded. Jon Arryn stood by the mainmast with Ned Stark, voices low yet urgent, so that coursing gulls might carry no secrets to lice. Ned's gray eyes lingered on the cradle whenever the hatch opened. Chin set in silent judgment. "It would have been simpler to end the line entirely," Jon murmured. Ned answered, blade straight. "But not just." Jon massaged tired temples. "Justice and prudence rarely court together, my boy. If Viserys lives, if Targaryen loyalists rally to the true-born dragon—" "They will," Ned cut in. "Yet slaying babes makes butchers of monarchs. Robert holds the realm through goodwill as much as banners. Let the 7 kingdoms see a merciful king." Jon sighed, glancing toward the closed captain's cabin where Robert drank alone. He imagined the king's great shoulders hunched over an unrolled map, mead mug forgotten, eyes tracking red pins for rebel strongholds. Or perhaps Robert stared at his own reflection, wondering what the usurper's crown truly bought a man. "Mercy must be guarded then," Jon said at last. "Daenerys will need a wardship secure from both Targaryen sympathizers and Baratheon zealots." "Duskendale," Ned offered. "Sir Denys Darkland's line is extinguished. Land sparse yet defensible." Jon shook his head. "Not after the Defiance. That town still reeks of treason to many lords. Better a place apart from history's wounds. Perhaps the Eyrie." He trailed off as Littlefinger approached, silk boots silent on pine. Petyr Baelish bowed, mouth twitching with amusement. "Your graces, a raven arrives from Lord Tywin. He congratulates the crown's swift justice, and offers Casterly Rock as the girl's fosterage. He even suggests pairing her with one of his grandsons, should the king require a secure marriage alliance." "Nan," Ned had almost spat. Jon's reply was colder. "Tell Lord Tywin the realm thanks him for his vigilance. Yet we have made other arrangements." Baelish smirked. "Of course. But consider, at the rock she is under watchful eyes, and no Dornish sandal or Braavosi coin can reach her. Besides, it would ruffle Prince Renly's feathers to see a little lioness caring for a dragon. Menderano. He left with a flourish, cloak swirling like ink. Ned exhaled. Tywin sees marriage where we see peril. Best remember that. Tywin Lannister sees gold even in a child's tears, Jon replied. Yet his vaults buy peace cheaply. We cannot dismiss him outright. Beneath their feet, the Fury creaked, heading ever north of east, toward a future none aboard could name. Across the narrow sea, Viserys Targaryen, last son of the dragon, would learn of his sister's capture and scream at the wind. In King's Landing, crowds would surge to glimpse the babe who might have been their queen. And in Winterfell's Godswood, a dire wolf pup, born the night the dragon's fell, would lift its nose to a crisp sky, as if sensing the shift of destiny's weave. The procession through the capital began at sunset. Braziers flared along the street of steel, casting molten sheen on the gilded stag banners. Small folk thronged rooftops, cheering the usurper they now called king. The whispers churned beneath each shout. What would become of the Targaryen whelp? Would the stag devour the dragon as wolves devour lambs? Robert rode at the center, hammer across his lap, but he looked neither left nor right. On his saddle before him, Daenerys sat nestled in a silk-lined basket, new milk on her lips. Each time the cheers spiked, she started, eyes wide, but Robert's gauntleted hand steadied her. At the Red Keep's gate, Grand Maester Pycelle bowed so low his chain of office clattered on cobblestones. "Gracious Majesty," he wheezed, "the nursery is prepared. The wet nurse has arrived from Storm's End, and as you commanded, the Queen's apartments have been—" Robert's glare silenced him. Queen's apartments. He had loved Lyanna, not Cersei, not this half-life of compromises. But duty, like steel, only bent under heat. Behind him, Cersei waited, hair piled high with emerald pins, lips a thin slash of curiosity. She studied the bundle as though appraising jewelry. "This is the child?" she asked. Robert dismounted. "Her name is Daenerys. You will see her safe." He thrust the basket into her hands before the courtyard's 100 eyes. If Cersei's face shifted to disdain, none dared comment. She curtsied stiffly, then turned toward the tower stairs. Robert watched her ascend, gold silk whispering, cradle swaying. For one heartbeat, the babe peered over her blanket, violet eyes meeting Robert's with solemn accusation, and then she was gone. Moonrise flooded the tower of the hand with silver. Ned Stark paced the gallery, boots silent on rushes. Robert sprawled by the hearth, crown discarded on the wolfskin rug, mead jug near empty. "Tell me, Ned," he muttered. "Did we do right?" "Ask me in 20 years, Ned replied. He watched Ember's pulse, thought of his own infant, newborn Robb, suckling at Cat's breast in distant Winterfell. He saw how fragile the world became when heirs slept in cradles. Right is not a blade you sharpen once. It must be honed every day. If you raise the girl with honor, the realm may yet forgive her blood. Robert rubbed his beard. Honor. He barked a laugh that sounded nearer to a sob. We speak of honor waving our banners of corpses. What if she grows beautiful, Ned, with silver hair gleaming like dawn, and people start to sing of dragons again? What if she hates me? Bah. Then you will answer her hate with justice before the realm, Ned said. Or you will lose the very thing you sought to save. Robert fell quiet. Outside, in a tower newly furnished for a dragon princess, Daenerys Targaryen hiccuped once, rolled onto her side, and dreamed infant dreams of warmth. She could not know that the choice of mercy over murder would knot her life to the king's as tightly as any chain. She could not know that songs of dragons never truly die. They burrow deep, sleeping like embers beneath ash, waiting for breath. Yet for now, for this single night in a kingdom bruised by war, a helpless babe lay swaddled in silk, alive by a usurper's conflicted grace. Outside, ravens settled on the ramparts, feathers ruffled by a chill wind sweeping in from Blackwater Rush. An omen, perhaps, or merely winter's herald. Either way, the Game of Thrones began anew, the moment the hammer fell silent and the cradle began to rock. End of part 1. Key. Rain sluiced off the ramparts of Maegor's Holdfast in black sheets as the new moon crawled over King's Landing. Inside the council chamber, torch smoke pooled beneath the vaulted ceiling like a low storm cloud, and the high-backed chairs seemed to huddle round the table for warmth. Robert Baratheon slouched at the head, fists braced against polished oak, crown glinting in uncertain light. In his right hand he gripped a sealed parchment fresh from the east. The crimson wax bore a dragon's three-headed sigil crudely pressed by an unfamiliar signet. "It is from Braavos," Varys announced, lacing pale fingers. "The Sea Lord denies harboring Prince Viserys, but a free brother in the Iron Bank vows the boy seeks coin for sellswords. Worse, he has found ears willing to hear him in Pentos. They whisper of a new Khalazar willing to bear a dragon hatchling west." Ser Barristan's white cloak whispered as he shifted. "A hatchling of steel, no doubt, forged from Bravosi gold." Robert's knuckles whitened. "My hammer crushed Rhaegar's breastplate to rags. I will not chase shadows across the world to smash some boy's beggar's crown. Let the banks coddle him. Coin alone does not make an army. Done? Sometimes it buys enough of one." Stannis growled from the far side, candlelight carving hollows in his gaunt face. "And Jorah Mormont sits in his company. Anointed knight, exile, and sellsword captain. Better to snuff sparks than battle wildfire." "Then sail and snuff," Robert barked. "Take Dragonstone's garrison, cross in the Fury, and hunt the Silver Princeling through every rat hole from Tyrosh to Qohor, if it pleasures you." The table fell silent. Jon Arryn's quiet cough filled the hush. "Your Grace," he said, voice gentle yet iron-laced, "Stannis cannot leave. The narrow sea boils with Lyseni privateers, eager to avenge their lost coin. Dragonstone must be reinforced, not bled. Better we appoint envoys to the Iron Bank. If Viserys begs alms, let Braavos see how the realm pays its debts now that a Baratheon holds the crown." Littlefinger's smile flickered. "We might even secure a loan at favorable rates. The crown's coffers could use sweetening after the revels." Robert slammed his tankard down hard enough to slosh ale across Peter's ledger. "We will not bargain for peace like grocers dickering over onions. Dragons take coin. Stags take ground. When next Viserys sets foot in Westeros, mayhap his sellswords will see a rightful king and desert him." Varys allowed himself a faint sigh. Words do little once banners are raised. Steel decides. Small folk suffer. "Perhaps, Lord Hand, we should divert attention inward, restore river fords, lower the winter levies, show the commons the king's peace bears fruit while the dragon's promises wither." Jon nodded. A harvest of goodwill now may yield fewer sellswords later. Robert bit back retort. His gaze drifted to the far corner, where a velvet cradle stood beneath a tall shuttered window. Wet wind rattled the shutters, but the babe within slept on, silver wisps curling against her brow. Daenerys Stormborn, ward of the Iron Throne, 7 moons old and swaddled in stag and lion embroidery. Her presence in the chamber felt like a drawn sword across every conversation. Cersei, seated beside the cradle, stroked the infant's cheek with a gloved finger. "She eats little," the queen remarked to no one in particular. "Perhaps the damp air does not agree with her." Her green eyes glittered toward Robert, a challenge half hidden. "She wore emeralds tonight. No rubies, never rubies, yet every gem seemed to question. What of our own heirs? Why does this whelp sit where Joffrey should?" Robert only grunted, pushing back from the table. "Enough counsels and colicky brats. I leave tomorrow for the hunt. I've been cooped in stone too long." Ned Stark, silent till then, spoke softly. "The Kingswood teems with poachers," Robert thought. "Take a stronger guard, and leave the ale cask behind the saddle." "Ben shall." Robert managed a rueful grin. "Ever the nursemaid, Ned. The gods saw fit to give me a brother in all but blood." He stalked from the chamber, boots echoing in the gallery. Behind, the council dissolved into murmurs. Tywin's letter, tariffs on Myrish lace, the cost of mending wildfire vaults. Through it all, Daenerys gurgled in her sleep, unaware that every word weighed her life in invisible scales. Dawn bled pale gold across the Red Keep's highest terrace as Ned paused by the nursery arch. Within, gentle light played on carved holly and ash toys stacked around the cradle. A slender shadow bent over the sleeping child, Ashara Dane's younger brother Edric. Sworn now as one of the Queen's maids, skilled with lullabies and silent footwork. He looked up, violet eyes acknowledging Ned's presence without bow or start. The Kingsguard kept watch even in velvet slippers. She woke thrice in the night, Edric whispered. Dreams took her, no tears, only soft whimpers, like waves around Dragonstone. Ned studied the infant. So small, yet history coiled in her blood like latent flame. A single breath from her lungs could unmake everything. Should Viserys return, should Robert fall upon the boar's tusk of his own hungers, she will need strong dreams for the world she enters. Edric adjusted a silk mantle. Dreams are kind only to those free of prophecy, Lord Stark. Ned's mouth tightened. Spare her prophecy then. Let her learn snow and summer before dragons. He left, boots whispering over mosaic floors. Outside the city stirred, bakers lighting ovens, smiths stoking forges, sept bells tolling lauds. Ned breathed deep, longing for pine and snow. The south smelled of stone sweat and restless hope. Crossing the small court behind the sept of the White Sword, he found Sir Barristan practicing forms, blade glinting in morning's first kiss. The old knight paused at Ned's approach. She grows, Barristan observed. Ace to her perils. Barristan sheathed. Robert's mercy is steel-edged. If he weakens, others will act. Ned met the White Knight's gaze. We will not allow children to be butchered in alleys while we stand idle. Barristan inclined his head but said nothing more. Honor bound them both, yet honor warred with loyalty in different hearts. Ned walked on, weighed by the question that haunted every corridor. How long before mercy soured into necessity? Weeks slipped into months. Summer's glare turned the Blackwater into a molten ribbon. The city sweltered, and tensions baked hard as kiln brick. In Flea Bottom, rumors sprouted like toadstools. Some said the Silver Babe sprouted wings at night, screeching for roasted heart. Others swore the Queen drank the child's tears to keep her beauty. Dockside hawkers coined songs. Dragon in the cradle, stag on the throne, one sigh, one cry, and the city's overthrown. Varys' little birds carried each whisper to the spider's web. One humid evening he found Lord Renly pacing the maiden vault, fretful as a stag in a snare. If Robert heard half these tales, Renly said, running hands through summer sweat curls, he'd mount ahead on every gate, which merely grows the next crop of suspicion, Varys cooed. Fear of the unknown breeds faster than rats. Renly's jaw set. She should be sent away. Far away. Every night I dream of wildfire in the streets, banners of black and red. Better to put her on a ship to the Citadel, raise her among grey maesters, Menshawati, and make Old Town the rebellion's cradle. Varys smiled thinly. Or perhaps driftwood thieves' market in Bravos. No, my lord. The babe's safest where all eyes see her. Shadows cannot twist what the sun illumines. Yet shadows grow longest at sunset, Renly muttered, exiting with cloak flaring. Varys watched, fingertip brushing a powdered vial at his belt. Strangler, tears of Lys, basilisk venom. Not for the babe. Her death would topple the board. But there were other pieces to move. Far to the east, the Braavosi galley Munzinger scudded across choppy seas. Viserys Targaryen, hair ragged from salt winds, leaned over rail and vomited bile. His cloak, dyed royal purple, clung to spindled shoulders like a funeral shroud. Jorah Mormont's heavy step sounded behind. "Eat, your grace," he urged, offering dry biscuit. "A king must stand straight, even on water. I will stand when my sister is free." Viserys wiped lips. Robert stole her. I will steal back my throne. The Braavosi promised 10,000 crowns if I sign away future tolls. Bender. Jorah frowned. Tolls promise coin only if you rule the straits. Better to bargain with the Taroshi. Their Archon hates the Lyseni as much as you hate the stag. Viserys smacked the rail. I want no merchant's advice. I want armies, and I will have them once Cal Barbo's riders meet us at Pentos. They say Barbo dreams of salt lakes beyond the sunset sea. I will promise him galaxies if it brings me Daenerys. He gazed west, eyes flaming with hunger. Baelish still coated his tongue. In the Red Keep, autumn breezes cooled besieged hearts. Jon Arryn organized a tournament for Harvest's End, a subtle distraction. Knights flocked from reach and vale, banners bright against purple skies. The queen smiled, for her brothers came, Jaime to joust, Tyrion to jest, Tywin to bow before Robert, while measuring every stone of the castle. On the morning of the tilts, Robert strode among the lists, hammer swapped for a ceremonial mace crusted with gems. Let the realm see its king hale and hearty, he declared, voice booming. He spared a glance at the grandstand where a gilded crib sat beside the Iron Throne's traveling seat. Daenerys clapped at flashing lances, the sound tiny yet crystalline. Cersei perched near, gilded as the crib, Joffrey in her lap, Myrcella at her knee, newborn Tommen in the wet nurse's arms behind. The tableau of Baratheon heirs and dragon ward framed by Lioness Queen was precisely the image Varys had choreographed, yet each smile seemed carved from ice. The final tilt pitted Jaime Lannister against Ser Barristan. White cloak against white cloak, though Jaime's bold grin mocked the gravity of the moment. The crash of lance on shield rang like cracked bells. Barristan's couched lance struck true, sending the younger knight sprawling. Cheers erupted. Robert bellowed laughter. Cersei's nails whitened around her cup. That night, revels flooded the halls. Wine spilled, minstrels strummed, dancers swirled. In the Godswood courtyard, Ned found Barristan sitting alone on a marble bench, helm in lap. You rode as if the Seven guided your point, Ned said. Barristan sighed. Jaime rides with flourish. I ride with memory. I heard echoes of Duskendale today. He studied the night-helmed moon. Tell me, Lord Stark, will we fight again for a child's life? If we must, Ned answered, meaning it. Barristan nodded, fingers tracing the silver tree inlaid on his helm. Then may the gods give us clarity before they grant us victory. Winter's first frost silvered the crownlands when word arrived. The Lyseni fleet had blockaded the Gullet, raiding Blackwater ships and dragging loyal captains to debtor cells. Robert raged, calling banners, but Stannis counseled caution. Supplies dwindled, bread prices soared. In the bowels of Fleabottom, hunger birthed riot. One bitter dawn, a mob surged toward the Red Keep gates. They bore torches and cudgels, chanting bread for babes, babes for stags. The city watch, undermanned, barely held them. Cersei watched from Maidenvault balcony, jaw clenched. They rally to the princess, she spat, or use her as excuse. Ned spearheaded a sortie, steel-clad, scattering the crowd with minimal blood. But rumors spread that the hand knelt before the mob's ragged standard of a crude three-headed dragon drawn on sackcloth. In taverns east of Cobbler's Square, men began pinning silver ribbons to sleeves, silent pledge to the lost dynasty. Jon Arryn called emergency council. We face a famine disguised as treason, he said. Open the granaries. Grain meant for Casterly Rock's levies must feed King's Landing instead. Tywin's reply came swift and cold. Let the capital learn economy. Robert overruled him, seizing half the Lannister wagons inbound from the Reach. Tywin departed the next dawn, banners furled tight, leaving promises of debt unpaid. That same night, Cersei visited Robert's solar with Tommen in arms. She laid the infant on the table between them. Joffrey his heir, Myrcella his match in courtesy, Tommen the sweet. Yet you prance for your dragon ward as if she were a trophy. When will our children hold equal space in your councils? Robert stared at the plump babe drooling on a parchment depicting grain roots. When they prove they hold Westeros's future in their tiny fists. Daenerys' leverage, nothing more. For now. Cersei's eyes glittered harder than his crown. Leverage grows into threat. I will not have her overshadow my line. Robert's temper flared. I slew her father and shattered her brother. I will not murder the last for your vanity." Cersei's smile was thin as a paper cut. Murder is unnecessary when accidents abound. Cribs collapse, wet nurses cough, sickness prowls in winter nights. She swept from the room, leaving the threat coiled like a viper on the map. Robert drained a flagon in one swallow, then another. Somewhere in the keep, Daenerys laughed at a jester's bells, a sound as airy as snowflakes drifting on hot wine. Moonless, wind-cut night. Varys slipped through torchlit corridors to the nursery. Inside, Edric Dane and two sworn maids dozed by the hearth. The spider knelt by the cradle, studying the child's unfocused stare. "Little flame," he murmured, "you burn brighter than wildfire, though you know it not." From his sleeve he drew a velvet pouch, set it beside the crib. Within lay a simple wooden locket, carved with the sigil of House Baratheon entwined with the dragon. 2 keys nestled inside, one gold, one wrought of dragon glass. "Paths fork, my dear," he whispered. "Choose mercy or choose fire. The realm will bleed either way, but perhaps less under gentle hands. Now." He closed her small fist over the locket. Tiny fingers clutched reflexively. Varys exhaled, an almost prayer, and vanished into shadows. Snow kisses the Eyrie sooner than other realms, and in earliest winter of that fateful year, a raven brought word to Lysa Arryn. The king wished to send his dragon ward north for fosterage under Jon's eye. Safer in the mountain Eyrie than sprawling King's Landing. Maester Coleman fussed over air too thin for infant lungs, but Lysa saw only danger to her fragile heir, Robin. What if the babe commanded Jon's affection, as her own child could not? She penned a demurral couched in courtesy. Jon Arryn sighed but did not press her. Instead he approached Ned. Would Winterfell welcome the girl? Catelyn's smile froze at the notion. A Targaryen babe suckling beside Rickon and Sansa? She prayed quietly for strength but offered no encouragement. So the princess remained in the capital, the center of every quarrel, while ravens flitted seeking sanctuary like vagrants turned from every door. Early spring saw Stannis sail for the Blackwater's mouth with new galleys bearing harvest grain from Storm's End. As the warships moved, so too did schemes. Baelish convened smugglers in the stepstones, buying their silence with coin skimmed from Lannister tariffs. "Keep a weather eye," he told the smuggler Lord Morio. "If a silver-haired child appears on a ship's deck, you guide her to Pedera's safe harbor. There will be 10,000 stags for each finger you lose assisting." Morio accepted but plotted to sell the girl to Tyrosh instead. War sells dear. In the Red Keep, Cersei's maids whispered of a new wet nurse dismissed within a fortnight, found later floating in the Blackwater with purple lips and broken neck. Official word: river pirates. Unofficial: too much knowledge, too few friends. Edric Dane doubled the nursery guard, posting sworn boys from House Dondarrion. Cousins of Lightning Lord Beric, flanking the door day and night. Varys approved with a nod. Ned, suspecting poison, turned to Pycelle. "Tonics only we can trace," he ordered. "No concoction, unsealed outside your sight, touches her lips." Pycelle fussed with chains. "Ace the hand commands, though milk of the poppy." "None," Ned snapped. "She needs clarity, not dreams." Behind them Daenerys, now tottering on chubby legs, reached for a sunbeam playing across the rushes. She giggled, spinning in circles until she fell, unhurt, on her padded bottom, arms wide like wings. The image stabbed Ned with odd paternal warmth, and dread that wings might one day bear real fire. That year's first tourney lances still lay splintered on hay carts when news thundered down the King's Road. Balon Greyjoy had sent raiders up the stony shore again. Robert pounded the map table. "I crushed his rebellion," he roared. "Must I sail to Pike and string him from his own drowned god's arch?" Stannis counseled steel. Renly counseled marriages. Ned, scanning the horizon of threats, felt fear coil. If the Ironborn struck, the realm would stretch forces thin. Viserys across the sea could seize his moment. Robert decided swiftly. Levy the Stormlands fleet, march north with crown forces, leave King's Landing under Renly's governance. Ned would ride to Winterfell for additional men. Jon Arryn would remain hand in all but name. Cersei spoke only one sentence during that council. "And who guards the girl?" Robert's answer was immediate. "She rides with me." Silence lanced the hall. Jon's brows rose. Ned's mouth opened, closed. "You would take an infant to war?" Cersei demanded. "I take my leverage where I can touch it," Robert growled. "Greyjoys respect hostages. A dragon aboard my flagship will stay Balon's axe." Stannis' jaw tightened. He saw the folly yet dared not voice it. Ned stepped in. "A babe cannot weather salt spray and deck battles. Better to station her at Storm's End under the Even Star's watch. A fortress of your blood far from court intrigues." Robert considered. Memories of boyhood games in Stone Drum Hall softened his glare. "Aye. She will live there until this matter ends." Thus decided, ravens flew. Sir Courtenay Penrose re-eddied nurseries. Shira Errol, Lady of Haystack Hall, prepared gentlemaids. At court, whispers shifted. The dragon girl to dwell beside the sea that once sheltered her birth. Some saw omen, others opportunity. Littlefingers sauntered into Varys Solar that evening, twirling a Braavosi coin. "A bet, my silken friend. 10,000 copper stars, says she does not reach Storm's End alive." Varys smiled. "Spidersoft. I wager instead that she arrives safely, and that the master of coin loses more than coin should harm befall her." Petir's laughter chimed. "Threats? Or promises?" "Portents," Varys answered. "The realm pivots on the hinge of a cradle. Oil that hinge, Lord Baelish, or be crushed beneath the door." Petir flipped the coin, caught it, and strolled out whistling. Dragons once rode storms to conquer, and so a dragon child now rode the Stormlands Road under banners of gold and black. The column glittered. 800 knights, twice that in archers, wagons of grain and cordial. A traveling sept, minstrels hired by Renly to keep spirits bright. At its heart, an oaken carriage painted with crowned stags bore Daenerys in a cushioned seat. Ned rode alongside, Rickard Karstark at his flank. They skirted rolling green, orchards blossoming late, distant bays gleaming like hammered tin. Each dusk, campfires ringed the carriage in concentric defense. Each dawn, Ned inspected wheels, reins, food tasters. On the 6th day, mist rose gray as memory. The column wound between crags above Blackhaven, when arrows hissed from fog. The first volley slew 2 outriders, the second shattered Ned's shield rim. Bandits, no, trained sellswords in mismatched mail, surged from both flanks. Their shouts bore Taroshi accent. "Protect the girl," Ned thundered. Knights formed hedgehog around the carriage. Steel rang, horses screamed. Ned's longsword danced, carving gaps in enemy lines. He caught a glimpse of sigils hastily painted on shields. A broken crown over blue flame. Viserys' imagined banner. A burly spearman crashed through defenders, lunging toward the carriage door. Before Ned could reach him, a dagger whistled from the carriage window. The spearman jerked, gurgled, and fell. The door burst open. Edric Dane leapt out, blade slick with blood, blue eyes ablaze. "For the dawn," he cried, cutting left and right with Dane grace. Ned joined him, back to back. Together they stemmed the assault until Stormland knights pressed advantage. Moments later, the enemy broke, vanishing into cliffs like ghosts. Silence returned, broken only by wind and moans of wounded. Ned wiped blade, heart hammering. He rushed to the carriage. Inside, Daenerys blinked up at him, eyes wide yet dry. She grasped the little locket around her neck, thumb worrying the dragon glass key, as if sensing its purpose. "Brave girl," Ned murmured, though she understood not. Yet some flicker of comprehension seemed to steady in those purple irises, and she reached out, touching blood on his gauntlet with solemn curiosity. They buried the dead at a windswept ridge that night. Ned knelt as the first mound was sealed. "This war has not ended," he whispered to the earth. It merely changed shape. Storm's End rose like a colossal drum upon the cliffs, its walls mottled by centuries of salt gales. When the column arrived, gulls wheeled overhead, shrieking welcome. Sir Courtenay greeted them, parchment dignities swept aside by genuine relief. Daenerys' quarters overlooked the roaring sea, long windows barred yet bright, walls hung with tapestries of stags coursing through tempest. Within hours her laughter mingled with gull cries, as if the salt air recognized her. Robert visited 2 days later, helm under arm, cloak salt stiffened from fleet inspection. He found the child chasing a carved stag across rugs while Shira Errol clapped time. When she saw the king, she tottered forth, eyes shining, locket swinging. Robert froze. Then, awkwardly, he crouched. The little girl held up the toy stag. Robert took it like a knight receiving attorney favor. "You've grown," he muttered. She giggled, poked his beard. Something raw loosened in Robert's chest. Fear, perhaps, or acceptance. He rose, turned to Ned. "See her safe," he said, voice iron but edged with something kinder. "When the Greyjoys bow, we will speak of her future." Ned inclined his head. "And if they do not bow, we will still speak. For the realm's sake." Robert nodded, eyes on the child. "Let it be so." He left, hammer hanging like an afterthought. Daenerys watched him depart, then toddled to the window, pressing palms to the sea-sparkled glass. Wind whipped foam against the wall below, sounding strangely like distant wings. Across the water, in Pentos, Viserys met with Khal Barbo amid incense and horse sweat. The Khal wore bells that chimed a promise of storms. Viserys unfurled a painted banner showing a stag pierced by dragonfire. "Bring me to Westeros," he pled, "and dragons will ride again." Barbo's bloodriders laughed, but the Khal's eyes narrowed, calculating horizons. Jorah Mormont, standing behind Viserys, felt the ground shift beneath history. He pictured a silver-haired toddler in a cliffside keep, safe, for now. A prayer formed on his tongue, nameless as the old gods of Bear Island. He swallowed it, bowing his head, uncertain whether he begged mercy for the girl or pardon for himself. Wind off the sea carried the faint cry of gulls, spanning continents, stitching destinies. In Storm's End, the same wind rattled shutters, and Daenerys Targaryen, ward hostage, heiress, laughed into the gust as if it whispered secrets only she could grasp. She could not know the storm gathering beyond the horizon, or the choices grown men would make over her cradle. Yet in her fist she clenched 2 keys, gold and dragonglass, and somewhere deep in the marrow of the world, unseen doors waited, locked since the dragons died, listening for the click of fate. And the realm held its breath. Oh, Wind carried the scent of brine and pine into Storm's End, filling corridors with a restless murmur that reminded Daenerys of waves before she could name them. The great drum tower kept its own slow rhythm. Creak of timbers, sigh of hearths, the distant boom of breakers striking cliffs. But on the 15th day of Robert's march north, another sound threaded the weave, the sharp clatter of swords beating time in the yard. Edric Dane drilled with Beric's cousins beneath a sky marbled slate and silver, movements precise as clock gears. Daenerys, 2 years old now, watched from a window above, chin just high enough to clear the ledge. Shira Errol balanced her on a knee, humming a Stormlander lullaby that spoke of moon maidens and gallant stags. Each clash of steel made the girl's violet eyes flash. Each arc of sword or spear drew a soft ah from tiny lips. When Edric executed a sweeping parry that sent sparks skidding across wet flagstones, she clapped. Startling a raven preening on the battlements. Courtenay Penrose joined them, cloak billowing like a sail. "She favors swordplay more than dolls," he observed. Shira smiled. "She favors anything that moves." Penrose's gaze lingered on the child, brow creased by the weight of contradictory oaths. "If she lives long enough to choose, may she choose peace," he said, then turned as a horn sounded on the sea road far below. A dust plume curled along the cliff track. Royal messengers. Within the hour, Penrose stood in the audience hall, with Ned Stark's raven feather seal broken in his hand. Shira read the letter aloud while Edric and the guards listened. Balon Greyjoy has burned the fishing village at Fair Isle and captured merchantmen along the stony shore. His strength is greater than feared. His raiding parties strike swift and vanish. Robert advances by longship with Lord Redwyne and Stannis, but the isles are many, and their cliffs bristle with scorpions. I remain at Seaguard holding the main host. Guard the girl well. The Krakens may turn their eyes south if the north proves thorned. Send word of any sails you spy. The night grows longer. Signed, Eddard Stark, Warden of the North by hand of the king. The candles seemed to flicker harder after Shira finished. Penrose folded the parchment. Krakens on the Blackwater I can stomach, he muttered. Krakens at Shipbreaker Bay I cannot. Edric sheathed. Triple the lookouts on the watchtower. Keep a signal pyre ready by the maester's rookery. Penrose nodded. Have the child remain within the inner keep. I want only sworn blades in these halls. No traitors, no Septons save Septon Barthur and his acolytes. If any man fusses, throw him in the cells. Edric offered a half bow, eyes flaring with Dane fire. I will guard her as dawn guards the east. Penrose grunted, but his stern mouth twitched upward, an admission of respect. That evening, as rain drummed a steady tattoo on shuttered panes, Shira carried Daenerys to the hearth for her milk. The girl traced the carved antlers on Shira's brooch, while the older woman sang, voice low as breakers. Flames leapt beneath the cauldron, casting dragon shadows against sandstone walls. When the fire popped, Daenerys giggled, reaching out. Tiny fingers grazed the heat too close, and she jerked back before Shira could snatch her hand. Yet instead of crying, she stared transfixed at the ember clinging to her fingertip. Bright, painless, a spark that winked out before scorching flesh. A hush spilled over the room. Shira's pulse hammered. Penrose, passing the open door, glimpsed the tableau. Silver-haired child haloed by firelight, unscathed. Memory thrust him back to Dragonstone nights of rumor. Eggs that burned yet never cooled. Princes bathing newborn infants in simmering water to test true blood. He rubbed arms beneath wool. Coincidence, he told himself. But the word felt hollow as a spent seashell. 2 nights later a storm slammed the keep with fists of thunder. Between lightning flashes, a half-moon fleet rounded the cape. 12 long ships emblazoned with kraken banners, sails tawny from seawater rot yet swift under the churning wind. Lookouts rang bells. Penrose's garrison scrambled to walls. Torches guttered in the gale, but oil lanterns lit murder holes. Catapults hauled to firing posts. Stones the size of calves winched into place. Edric pulled helm over violet eyes, standing at the narrow bridge that yawned between Outer Bailey and Main Gate. Behind him, 4 dozen Stormlander archers knocked gray-fletched arrows. The raiders made no pretense of parley. Grapnels whistled up the cliff face, iron claws biting mossy rock. Rope ladders unfurled. Figures in rust-brown mail swarmed like ants beneath torch wash. One reached the battlement lip only to earn an arrow through throat. He toppled, rope jerking free. Another gained purchase farther right, severing a guard's hamstring before he was skewered by pikes from below. Edric's blade flashed white as lightning. He blocked, riposted, spun. A kraken man leapt the parapet, twin axes whirling. Edric ducked low, slit the corsair's belt so axes thunked stone uselessly, then thrust into his gut. Rain battered helm and gambeson, but Edric felt strangely warm, as if the girl's unburnt ember had passed its heat to him. Within the keep, Shira rushed down spiraling stairs, clutching Daenerys against her breast. At each level, a guard saluted, then fell in behind, until a ring of steel surrounded the nurse and her charge. They reached the inner vault. A chamber carved deep, door bound with bronze and weirwood. Penrose waited, hair plastered by rain, keys jangling. As he swung the portal wide, torchlight glinted off a shadow emerging from the stairway opposite. Sir Emery fell, visor down, strode forward rain-soaked. "Lord Penrose," he called, voice muffled. "My post is compromised. Let me join the guard within." Penrose started to assent, then stilled. Fell's greaves were bone-dry despite his drenched shoulders, and a wet rider leaves no dusty boot prints, yet the night's soles tracked gray powder. Ash perhaps, smuggled from a forge rather than storm-damp ramparts. Penrose set his hand on hilt. "Your visor, sir." Fell hesitated. Behind him 2 men melted from the gloom, blades drawn. Not Stormland steel, but Tyroshi curved, blackened to hide shine. Shira gasped. The guards bristled. Penrose said no more. His sword flew free, edge ringing like a smith's anvil. Shira ducked into the vault as first steel met steel. The bronze door slammed. Bar bolts scraped into sockets thick as forearms. Inside, the nurse sat panting on a crate of barley, Daenerys squirming. Beyond, battle clanged. Edric dashed down the stairs moments later, cloak torn. Small cut across cheek. Arriving as Fell's impostors retreated. 2 dead, 1 dying screaming. Penrose bled from a slash along ribs, but still stood. Inside, "Tend that wound," Edric barked. But Penrose shook his head. "Secure the postern. More will come. Dane, guard the vault." Edric obeyed, back pressed to bronze, sword angled down. The dying sellsword gurgled pleas. Penrose silenced him with a quick stroke. The skirmish above ended by dawn. Kraken sails vanished north, leaving broken grapnels and bodies splayed on rocks below. Seagulls shrieked triumph. Rain eased to drizzle. Shira emerged pale but unhurt. Daenerys slept, cheek smudged by barley dust. She did not wake until noon, when sun cut between clouds and pooled like molten gold upon her face. She opened eyes, saw Edric leaning in the threshold, armor dented, and smiled a small sleepy smile. He forgot his pain then, and smiled back. Word of the raid rode swift to Seaguard with ravens. Ned's jaw tightened on reading. He dispatched a messenger to Robert on Great Wyke, begged swifter action, but Robert had already launched the assault on Pike. The king's forces stormed the sea tower under catapult cover. Robert himself waded through surf at the fore, warhammer shattering shields. Legend would say he felled 5 reavers in one swing, though the truth counted 3. Either number sufficed. Balin's banners fell within a fortnight. Theon Greyjoy knelt weeping salt and blood, handed over as hostage to guarantee his father's word. Victory carved new scars on the realm. Coffers drained, ships burned, widows wailing. Robert returned to King's Landing festooned with cheers yet bearing bruises deep as harbor depths. Among the welcoming crowd Cersei stood stiff, golden hair immaculate, eyes colder than winter lumps. Daenerys remained at Storm's End by Robert's order, but her absence felt like a phantom limb between the royal pair. The king sought Ned alone that night. Septandal smoke wreathing the solar. He pulled off tunic with a grunt, his side purpled beneath half-healed ribs. "Maester says 3 moons without tourneys," he scoffed. "I'll ride again ere the new moon. See if he dares chain me." Ned poured watered wine. "Rest strengthens more than pride." Robert gulped, wiping foam. "You sound like John." He slumped in chair groaning. "But speak, old friend. I see worry dripping off you like sweat." Ned recounted the Storm's End attack. Robert's knuckles whitened. "Tyroshi steel, you say? Bought by horse and visorays, no doubt. Or by hands nearer." Ned's voice dropped. "The knight impersonated Sir Fell, a man known to frequent the Queen's salons." He let implication hang. Robert flinched as if struck. Cersei would never. His protest drowned in self-doubt. He slammed cup. "I'll have Varys gut every spy from Flea Bottom to Dragonstone." Ned leaned forward. "Interrogations breed fear, not loyalty. Better protect the girl than punish rumor. Bring her to Winterfell." The north is far from the capital's snares. Cold enough to freeze every plot. Robert grumbled, yet eyes softened. "But I promised Storm's End would be her hearth. Breaking promise to a babe seems cruel." Ned sighed. With each new danger, promises shift. Children live or die by grown men's shifts. Robert's stare drifted to stone lions carved into mantle. "Tomorrow we ride for Storm's End together. Then to Winterfell, if you judge it best." He rose slower than usual and clasped Ned's wrist. I trust you with her life, brother." They set out before dawn, escort of 200, Barristan in command. The King's Road rolled beneath autumn banners. Crimson leaves swirled like spilled wine. Halfway to Bitterbridge, they met Renly racing south with fresh riders. "Storm's End is secure," Renly reported. "But spies creep like weasels. A fisher at night song claims gold ships lurk beyond Tarth's reefs." Robert waved him into column. "We gather the girl and double the garrison." 4 nights later, lightning veined clouds over the drum tower, as if the gods heralded their arrival. Penrose greeted them bandaged but proud. Shira carried Daenerys forth. The child stared at Robert, then reached small arms. Robert swallowed, took her awkwardly. She patted his beard and laughed, unafraid. During sup that night, Robert announced, "At sunrise, we sail north. The princess will winter in Winterfell, under Lord Stark's protection." "Ow." Courtenay Penrose opened mouth, closed it. Renly glanced at Cersei's empty seat. Barristan inclined his head. Only Edric's expression cracked. Relief? Concern? Its mix resembled dawn before downpour. Beneath tables, Daenerys toddled, chasing a wooden kraken. Someone had carved and left near the dais. She captured it, holding the toy high like a trophy, unknowing of omen. Morning saw Squall's last shipbreaker Bay die. The royal galley Stormrunner waited at anchor. Pale sun caught her gilded antler figurehead. Crew bustled, hoisting sailcloth stiff with dew. Robert stood on gangplank, cloak snapping, with Daenerys wearing a tiny fur mantle over green velvet. Ned walked behind, ignoring Cersei's flares of rage burning from the quay. As sailors loosed ropes, a horn blared from the cliff road. A rider tearing downhill on lathered destrier. "Maester's seal," a deckhand shouted. The messenger, wind-beaten and wide-eyed, tossed a scroll. Ned caught it, broke wax. Words danced before him. "John Arryn lays ill. Sudden chill of lung. Breath shallow. Fever high. Pycelle administers, but fears humors dark. Return if able. Realm unsettled." Ned's pulse hammered. Robert read over his shoulder, face draining. "John dying? 7 hells." Ned folded parchment. "We must return, Your Grace. Without the hand, the capital is vulnerable." Robert pawed beard. He glanced at Daenerys, who gurgled, tugging his cloak tassel. "A choice between throne and child," he muttered. "I will not abandon John. Yet I dare not bring her back into the lion's den." Ned spoke low. "Let me take her. I ride straight to Winterfell. You sail up the Blackwater and tend the council." Robert nodded heavy. "So be it. I place her life in your hands until I call for her." "Nando." He pressed a silver stag medallion into Daenerys' fist, closed her fingers around it. The girl blinked as if noting weight of command. Edric volunteered to escort. Penrose added Stormlanders. Renly insisted on his own sworn lordlings. Ned agreed. Thus at midday the party split. Robert and most ships tacking back toward King's Landing, sails snapping like banners. Ned, Edric, Shira, and 40 men riding north with the princess swaddled in gray furs. They traveled forest roads rather than the highway, wary of spies. Rain turned tracks to bogs. Nights they camped beneath towering oaks, leaving no fires. Ned carried the child evenings, humming North songs of ice and hearth. She fell asleep, gripping his wolf head clasp. Beyond the neck, chill settled in earnest. White mists puddled among barrows. Water froze brittle on reins. Daenerys' cheeks pinked, but she never shivered. At the Causeway watchtower, a black brother recognized Ned and raised the gate. "Winterfell stands waiting, my lord," he called. They crossed the marshes under snow-gray sky. Wolves howled far off. Sound of home to Ned, alien lullaby to others. Daenerys pressed ear to his cuirass, listening as if understanding. Winterfell's ramparts loomed at dusk, smoke curling from great hall chimneys. Catelyn met them under the arched gate, breath swirling white. She bent to study the tiny ward. Daenerys studied her back, solemn, then offered the silver stag. Cat accepted, expression softening. That night, a feast welcomed returning lord and new guest. Robb, 4, eyed the silver-haired girl with curiosity. Sansa toddled after, clutching doll. Arya scowled at her laces and approached, poking at Dany's braid. The princess giggled, snatching Arya's finger. Arya laughed, rare and bright. Catelyn watched hope spark. Children bridging houses, blood once set against flames. In the Godswood, Ned knelt before the heart tree later, snowflakes dusting hair. "I have delivered her, old gods," he whispered. "Let mercy flow from this small act. Repay blood with peace." He did not expect reply, but wind shook red leaves, and a single pale blossom drifted to his knee like a scent. King's Landing, meanwhile, roiled. Jon Arryn worsened, Pycelle applying poultices that stank of goat bile. Littlefinger lingered long in sickroom whispers. Varys drifted silent as steam. Cersei seldom left bedchamber, save to meet her father's envoy behind closed doors. Rumors thrashed. The Hand had discovered treasonous lineages. A book of lineages vanished from his shelf. Milk of the Poppy had been switched with something darker. Robert reached the capital to solemn bells. Jon Arryn deed the second dawn of his arrival. The king raged until his throat bled, then sat numb while lords offered condolences. He demanded wine. He closed council and drank alone. Cersei entered quietly with Joffrey. Robert looked upon his son's fair curls, saw only ghosts. "Out," he murmured. The queen withdrew. Pycelle delivered the body to the silent sisters. Varys suggested a tourney in the hands, honor to steady spirits. Robert agreed listlessly. Preparations began amid funeral smoke. Yet beneath pageantry, fissures widened. Tywin Lannister rode in with 800 heavy cuirassiers, gold cloaks gleaming, claiming duty to protect the crown until a new hand named. Varys's birds spotted sellsword captains arriving from Bravos, wearing badges of a pale dragon. In taverns, the silver ribbon movement swelled, now openly sporting three-headed pins. When ravens to Winterfell brought news of Jon's death, Ned grieved but saw the deeper tremor. While he pondered returning south, snow began to fall heavy. Maester Luwin warned of early winter. The king's road would choke with drifts. Ned writhed between vows. Protect the girl, or serve the king. Finally he sealed a message. "Your Grace. News of the late Hand's passing grieves us beyond words. The North stands with you. Winter's onset delays my ride, yet my duty commands I return. I will depart with first clear sky, leaving Lady Catelyn guardian of your ward, until my arrival with her to King's Landing in spring's thaw." Signed, Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North. He hesitated, then penned a second note to Robert alone. "My friend, beware the lion in your bedchamber. Daggers hide behind honeyed grief." Jon sought truth in the Book of Lineages. It vanished. Ask questions of the milk in his cup. Trust only steel, and even then, watch your back. Ned. He sealed both, sent by swiftest raven. Winterfell's life adapted. Daenerys explored halls with wolves trailing. Grey Wind especially, larger than most hounds already, tolerated her tugging ears. She named him Echo, a Valyrian star, though Robb insisted on Grey Wind. When she toddled through the Godswood, leaves swirled to carpet her steps. She would sit before heart tree trunk, tracing grooves of its face as if understanding grief carved by centuries. One dawn deep in frost, Catelyn found her on battlements, Edric watching close. The girl stood fearless at parapet edge, gazing across white wastes. "She speaks a word," Edric said soft. "Far as I can tell, Dracarys, over and over to the cold sky." Catelyn's skin prickled. "What does it mean?" "Old Valyrian for dragonfire," he answered. "Legends say Targaryen children learn it before their own names." Catelyn wrapped a fur about the child. "In the north, we teach children winter. It humbles fire." Daenerys cradled, whispered the word again, breath misting like smoke. Far across the narrow sea, Viserys Targaryen stood before the heart-lit brazier of Corth's 13, pleading for ships. His Khalasar partnership failed, Barbo slain by a rival. Jorah remained, but without horses. The 13 listened behind ochre masks. Viserys offered spices, port rights, dragon heritage. They demanded proof of crown. His sister. Viserys swore he would reclaim her before spring's end, then set sail with a ragged crew and a chest of dubious coin. Captain Moreo awaited in the quay, coin owed by Baelish long since squandered. He eyed Viserys' meager chest, laughed. You bring fleas ransom for lion war. Yet he ferried them east toward Tyrosh, dreaming of greater plunder. A living dragon's blood. Storms drove them into the summer sea. Supplies dwindled. Jorah hunted seabirds, but despair perched heavier. Viserys raved on deck nights, vowing to rip the usurper's heart, to roast every wolf in northern snows, to see his sister crown him with molten iron. Sailors marked the madness in his eyes. Some whispered mutiny, but fear held. Sea is wide. Madness can still buy coin. Spring struggled north slower than message birds. Robert's reply reached Winterfell on a thawed morning. Come, my brother, and bring the child. I name you hand in Jon's stead. Wheels turn dreadfully. I need your honest sword. Delay no more. War stirs its head. Trust in Stannis at sea and Renly ashore. I trust none but you. And bring the girl. The realm must see her safe under my justice. Ned read thrice. He thought of Catelyn's anxiety, of wolves and babes, of lion daggers glinting behind red keep silks. Yet kingship commanded. He summoned Edric, Shira, and his household guard. We ride south in 10 days, he declared. We must outpace storms and spies. Catelyn's lips trembled, but she bowed assent. The Stark children clung silently to Daenerys that night, as though sensing she was both sister and spark of looming change. On the 9th day, as packing commenced, a black crow struck Luwin's window, scroll tied in strand of red silk, every letter drawn in a stranger's angular hand. The pale dragon stirs. Teeth cut the sea. Beware a merchant captain named Moreo and the sellsword bear. They seek the girl. Do not attempt the King's Road. Fly by White Knife and ship at White Harbor. The wolf's mouth yawns behind you. No seal, yet Ned felt the chill of truth. The sellsword bear. Jorah Mormontato. Moreo. The smuggler Baelish enlisted. But how did warning reach him? He thought of Varys yet doubted. Perhaps Penrose. Or some hidden friend within King's Landing's spiderweb resisting its weaver. The riddle mattered less than heed. He changed plans at once. Escort ride to White Harbor, sail to Gulltown, then cross by King's Road's lower safer stretch. Few would expect such pivot. They departed under low gray sky. Snows crusted but passable. Catelyn stood on gatehouse with Robb and the girls, waving cloth until procession vanished amid pine trunks. Jon Snow, pale with envy to join, watched from wall until Edric's violet cloak faded. Stillness settled heavy. For Daenerys the journey south felt new yet familiar, tense, snowmelt water, crackling fires behind windbreaks of fur. She sat before flames with Arya's old practice sword, tapping coals until sparks danced. Shira scolded. Edric only smiled faintly. Ned considered each ember a prophecy he dared not decipher. At White Harbor, Lord Manderley welcomed them with lantern feast, whaleskin banners snapping above tawny ports half-frozen wharves. The ship he provided, the Maiden's Honor, boasted iron-bark decking and captain sworn to house dark alone. They sailed with tide, gulls escorting. Yet beyond the bar, hidden under low fog, another vessel lurked. The Eastern Star, Morio's red-sailed cog, hull slim for speed. A spyglass confirmed stark banners aboard the Maiden. Moreo barked to crew, canvas filled. They followed at distance, waiting nightfall. On deck of Maiden, Ned conferred with captain in candlelit stern cabin. Edric paced outside, listening to waves slap. Daenerys slept in cot, silver hair glowing with moon glint through porthole. Shira hummed, soft. Midnight. A thud, subtle but wrong. Edric unsheathed silently. Another thud. Grapnel hooks biting rail. He banged cabin door once. Alarm bells rang. Sailors rushed. Arrows hissed from dark. One grazed Edric's pauldron. Sellswards climbed ropes, led by hulking figure wearing patched bear pelt. Jorah Mormont. Edric blocked first border, severing rope. Mormont vaulted another line, greatsword raised. Yield the girl, Dane, he growled. Save your men and your honor. Honor thrives only where children live, Edric answered, meeting him. Blades clashed, sparks spraying. Jorah heavier, Edric faster. Deck pitched, water sprayed. Ned burst from cabin, longsword in gauntlet, eyes blazing. Skirmish spattered deck planks red. Shira shielded Daenerys behind barrels. A sellsword lunged. Shira swung a kettle, dazing him. Ned hacked through. The bear pressed Dane, forcing retreat. Edric slipped, knee-thumping rail. Jorah drove. Then Daenerys' voice cut the din, high, clear. Dracarys. Flame erupted, not true dragonfire, but a lantern knocked by stray arrow shattered oil across rails at Jorah's feet. Sparks leapt, catching pitch-slick rope. Fire whooshed skyward. Jorah stumbled back, cloak ignited. He rolled, cursing, grabbed rigging to douse in sea before retreating to his ship, now drifting away lines aflame. Moreo shouted to cut, sails unfurling. Eastern Star fled into fog trailing orange embers. Maiden's crew quelled blaze before mass caught. Dead counted 5 Stark men, 7 boarders. Ned knelt by them, silently promising justice. He turned to Daenerys, who sat wide-eyed but unwounded. She clutched silver stag medallion and stared at blackened pool, where oil fire smoldered. Edric knelt. Little princess, you saved us. She tilted head. Fire hurt. She lisped softly. First words besides Valyrian Tata. Bad man, stop. Ned's heart twisted. Little one. Fire stops bad men, if wielded right. He prayed that would remain truth. They changed course to Sisterton, wary of pursuit, then hugged coast to Gulltown. From there, Ned hired mountain clansmen as escort, along Erie Road Data. Word reached Renly of attack. He sent men to meet them at the Trident Crossing. Each new ally wove stronger net, yet also broadcast her trail for foes persistent. Meanwhile in King's Landing the Hand's tourney commenced. Tyrell knights jousted Lannister lions. Coin changed hands. Robert drank. Cersei smiled. Below the spectacle, Varys learned of Morio's failure. He breathed easier, but Baelish merely shrugged, pockets still jingling. One game lost, Littlefinger mused. Another begins. Viserys docked at Lies, funds dwindled, but found sympathetic captains eager for plunder. He spun tales. His sister kidnapped by Northerners, throne ripe for restoration. A sell-sale named Miles Toyne promised 3 ships if Viserys produced dragon-blooded proof within a moon. Rage simmered. Viserys vowed proof soon. In a cellar lit by guttering candles, he studied a stolen Stark banner, gray direwolf over snowfield, and stabbed it with dagger tip. I will drape her cradle in northern hide, he hissed. Jorah watched, sorrow mixing with duty. The bear once dreamed of honor, now he chased ghosts across seas. But he remembered Daenerys' wide violet gaze at Dragonstone years ago, and remorse gnawed like frostbite. Ned's party reached the inn at the crossroads under driving rain. By chance or fate, the stable already housed golden lions. Jaime Lannister en route north to treat with River Run concerning Jon Arryn's death. He greeted Ned politely, golden hair damp. His eyes flicked to the cloaked child by Ned's side. Recognition flared, mouth quirked. A rare ward you shepherd, Lord Stark, Jaime drawled. And duty, I take seriously. Of course. You always were a serious man. Jaime's gaze lingered like a drawn blade. Best keep that cloak tight. Winds of change blow, and children catch chill to tot. That night, Edric kept double watch. In the common room, Lannister men drank quietly. Ned felt tension coil beneath laughter, but no daggers flashed. Dawn saw Jaime ride west while Ned turned south for King's Landing. Yet he sensed conversation would echo down halls sooner than ravens could fly. 3 days later, black banners topped with stag and direwolf approached the capital. Robert emerged from the Gate of the Gods, red-rimmed but sober, greeting Ned with crushing embrace. Crowds lining the street gasped at silver-haired girl on Ned's saddle before gates clanged shut. Within fortress walls, whispers spread like quickfire. The dragon had come again to court, nursed by wolves. Cersei greeted them in throne room, clad in green so dark it nearly matched Ned's pine cloak. She kissed the air beside Robert's cheek, then bent to study Daenerys. "How the babe has grown," she murmured, smile thin. The North's chill has flushed her cheeks, yet her eyes are still embers of old Valyria. Daenerys frowned, sensing ice behind words, and buried face in Ned's shoulder. Robert tapped scepter. Enough cooing. To council. He led them to small chamber. Renly, Stannis, Varys, and Baelish awaited. Tywin stood in shadow by hearth, gold armor muted. Ned set Daenerys in high-backed chair. Shira stood guard. Robert raised hand. "My lords, behold the living pledge of my justice. While she dwells under my protection, no man may claim cause to rebel." Tywin's eyebrow arched. "Protection is fragile where politics breed daggers. A single slip." "Then I shall not slip," Robert snapped. Baelish interjected smooth. "If your grace intends her presence here, perhaps a formal wardship agreement. Clarify guardianship, inheritance, marriage restrictions. Ease anxieties." Renly feigned yawn. "Spare us parchment storms, Pettier. The real anxiety sits across narrow sea wearing pale dragon on doublet." Varys spoke. "Viserys moves again, yes, but fractured allies chase coin more than crowns. Perhaps your grace could quell whispers by naming a royal successor schedule. With princes of your own line and the dragon under watch, the realm will rest." Robert shifted glare between wife and ward. "Joffrey is heir. None dispute that." Stannis coughed softly. Tywin stroked jaw. "Then marry the girl early to ensure loyalty. My grandson Tommen stands fine candidate. Blood of Baratheon and Lannister both." Cersei's eyes flared. Her younger son pledged to a dragon, yet she masked with sip of wine. Ned's voice cut through. "She is scarcely 3. Let her play with blocks before forging chains of state." Robert grunted. "Well said. No marriage is decided while I breathe." "Nam?" Baelish's smile widened. Chaos thrived on indecision. Varys bowed, already plotting counter-whispers. Meeting adjourned. Ned carried Daenerys to quarters in Tower of the Hand, where Catelyn's chambers once hosted Tully tapestries. Edric posted guard. As moon rose, Daenerys slept beneath fur, clutching wood kraken and silver stag. Ned opened shutters, gazed at flickering city. Bells tolled late for gamblers and lovers. Somewhere below, knives were sharpened, oaths sworn in secret tongues. He whispered to gods old and new, "Let this child's breath not fan war's forge. Let mercy root deeper than vengeance." On the horizon, east beyond black water, faint orange glow flared then faded. Ship lanterns or omen? Ned could not tell. He only knew his part in tale where dragons and wolves tangled round a stag's crown was far from finished, and dawn would bring choices harder than steel. Okay. Candle glow bled across the black marble floor of the Tower of the Hand, and Eddard Stark felt the hour creeping toward wolf dreams, yet sleep would not take him. From the little antechamber drifted a child's sleepy murmur. Daenerys shifting in her cradle of carved heart oak, stroking the silver stag Robert had pressed into her palm. Beyond the window, the red keep brooded atop Aegon's Hill, its ramparts lit by lanterns that shivered in a salt wind gusting off Blackwater Bay. The city below sent up 1,000 dim fires, each a whisper of plotting tongues. Ned closed the shutter, fitting the iron bar. He could bar the window, but not the kingdom. Footsteps sounded. Soft, deliberate. Sir Barristan entered, frost of a long march still in his white hair. He bowed, eyes flicking to the cradle. "The king summons you. Now." Ned donned his cloak, and together they stepped into the corridor lined with sigilled torches. The flames caught strange reflections in Barristan's polished greaves, flash of lion gold, stag bronze, wolf gray. Neither spoke until they reached the king's solar. 2 Lannister guards parted. Ned scented wine before the door opened. Robert stood shirtless above a war table of cedar strewn with painted stones, krakens, lions, wolves. Joffrey knelt opposite, golden head bent. Cersei hovered by the hearth. Cheeks lacquered rouge red, smile still as glass. Robert barked. "My heir wants lessons in rule. He shall have them." He jabbed a finger at a painted Dragonstone figurine lying beside a wolf. "Boy, tell me whom we spare and whom we slay." Joffrey's narrow mouth curled. "We flay traitors, father, mount their heads. The silver girl. She is traitor blood. Put her in a cage over Flea Bottom." Robert's hand crashed down, scattering pieces. "You would make a beast of your crown." He rounded on Cersei. "Hear how your tutelage sweetens him." Joffrey recoiled. Cersei's nostrils flared. Ned stepped forward. "The child is no traitor, your grace. She is your pledge of mercy." Robert's chest heaved. "Mercy? My mercy killed Jon Arryn, or did you forget?" He swept cups from a sideboard. Wine sprayed crimson over the lion on Cersei's gown. Someone poured poison and called it kindness. Ned met his eyes. Mercy did not pour that cup. Greed did, or fear. Robert sagged into a chair, suddenly old. "Fear, I." He dragged a hand through tangled hair. "Every court whisperer speaks of dragons. My dreams burn with them. I wake choking on black smoke. Men are wind." Cersei laid a hand on his shoulder. "Then end the dream, husband." Barristan's gauntlet clenched. Ned said, "Kill her and you kill your honor. The realm will see the wolf turn butcher, but its head will be crowned stag." Robert rubbed temples. Honor cracked beneath the trident. "All that remains is survival." He fixed Ned with bloodshot gaze. "Find who killed Jon Arryn. Give me a name I can break before I must break children." Ned bowed. "I will." He left the solar, pulse beating hot. As Barristan closed the door, Cersei's voice drifted. "Children grow, my king. You must prune early or watch weeds choke roses." Moon waned thin scythe when Varys appeared in the tower corridor. Slippers whispering. Ned braced hand on hilt. The eunuch inclined his bald head. "My lord Hand, your diligence rings loud even in the darkest bell." He produced a thin ledger. "Household expense records. Note the apothecary entries. Powder of the nightshade lily delivered to the queen's own maester 2 days ere Lord Arryn's cough." Ned opened to the parchment lines, ink spidery. "You bring this now. Proof ripens best when plucked before rot consumes." Varys smiled like an empty glove. "But I fear the fruit may sour in royal mouths. A stag who finds a lion has clawed his dearest friend, may gore without thought, and lions claw hardest when cornered." Ned closed the ledger. "Why aid me? The realm we share, Lord Stark. War starves the small. Peace fattens us all." He floated back into gloom, leaving scent of lilac. Ned returned to the antechamber. Shira slept in a chair. Daenerys dozed. He tucked the ledger under cloak. Heart pounding heavier than in battle. Dawn would bring iron decisions. Dawn bled pink across blackened rooftops. Ned strode to Grand Maester Pycelle's tower. Ravens croaked from ledges. Parchment smells mingled with sour herb. Pycelle hunched over a mortar, white beard dragging. "Lord Stark," he wheezed, "a rare blessing." His eyes flicked to ledger tucked beneath Ned's arm. Ned laid pages on the desk. "Explain these orders. 6 vials of nightshade lily powder, signed by your hand." Pycelle's throat bobbed. "A tonic, milord, for Queen Cersei's humors. Jon Arryn drank the nightshade within a tonic. And now you brew more." Ned's voice cut like the weir-axe. "Name who commanded it." Pycelle sagged. Her grace feared she bore a daughter instead of a son. "Nightshade steadies womb cramps. Mild dose only?" He blotted brow. Jon Arryn's elixir was potpourri for the lungs. Sweet sleep, not death. Ned drew daggers of words. He died within a day. Sweet sleep indeed. He seized a vial from shelf and smashed it. Purple dust drifted. You will be confined to your tower under guard until the king hears testimony. Fear flickered, but Pycelle dipped head. Ace the hand commands. Outside, Ned ordered Saraline to post guards. Snow fell like ash, unseasonably cold in the south. Perhaps omen to chill hot blood. Council convened. Robert arrived in hunting leathers, blade strapped. Tywin Lannister stood behind Cersei, golden helm under arm. Jaime beside, white cloak pristine. Varys and Littlefinger flanked. Stannis alone looked carved of salt. Ned placed the ledger atop council table. Maester Pycelle procured nightshade lily. Jon Arryn consumed same. Until cleared, Pycelle remains prisoner. Cersei's laugh rang brittle. An old man's remedies convict him? Perhaps the wolf should chase more cunning prey. Tywin's green eyes glittered. The hand forgets honor. Accuse without trial. Robert slugged a goblet barehanded. Enough. The hand speaks on my voice. But I will see justice served by swords, not ledgers. He pointed Warhammer at Ned. Find witness besides ink. A confession. A servant's sight. Until then, the council adjourns. Cersei's smirk remained. Littlefinger toyed with quill. Varys bowed, unreadable. As lords filed, Ned caught Renly's arm. The book of lineages Jon Arryn studied. Did you locate it? Renly nodded. Copied passages. Names, years, odd pattern. Every royal bastard's hair black as coal. He glanced at Joffrey across the hall. And every Baratheon true-born the same. Ned's eyes narrowed. Bring the ledger to my solar. The storm quickened. That night raged with sleet. In Tower of the Hand, Ned pored over lineage book under trembling candle. Stannis paced. I told Jon. Something foul in the succession. He died. He jabbed page. The genealogy of Cersei's children blank in margin where hair color should be. Golden? Like Lannister. He hissed. Robert's seed breeds coal. Only coal. Ned's stomach sank. Then the line is false. Joffrey not of Baratheon blood. Thunder cracked. Outside bells tolled frantic. The bell tower of the Septay. Ned and Stannis rushed to balcony. Fire blossomed at the base, orange tongues licking dusk-wet stone. Smoke coiled. Guards shouted, "The dragon ward! Fire in the Tower of the Hand!" Ned's blood froze. He sprinted through corridors choking with smoke. Flame licked tapestries. Door to antechamber lay splintered by axe. Inside, Shira lay unconscious, head bleeding. Edric grappled with a cloaked intruder wielding curved dagger. Sparks showered from fallen brazier. Curtains blazed. Daenerys stood between them, hair silver halo, eyes huge. The intruder lashed. Edric blocked, but dagger sliced arm. Ned drew steel. He lunged. The assailant twisted, blade aimed at the child's chest. Daenerys opened mouth. No sound, yet heat pulsed. Lantern crashed, oil washing attacker's boots. Flames surged blue-white. The man screamed, flesh blistering. Edric yanked Daenerys away as fire engulfed assassin, and rolled up hangings with a wolf-hungry roar. Ned hauled Shira. Guards doused corridor fires while Maester Franken rushed bandages. Ash fell like dark snow. When smoke cleared, assassin's corpse lay charred, face unrecognizable, but on belt hung sigil coin of Tyrosh scarab, same mercenaries from Storm's End. Robert arrived breathless, hammer in hand. He saw scorched chamber, Edric bleeding, Daenerys unharmed. Rage tremored in his fists. Lion's work, he rasped. Cersei entered behind, face-stricken. I know nothing of this. Robert's roar shook timbers. Enough secrets. Answer me. Joffrey's hair, Myrcellus Tommen's. Golden as yours. Not black like mine. He advanced. Whose seed birthed them? Cersei's chin lifted. A lion's seed, and better for the realm than a drunkard stag. Silence hit like hammer on iron. Jaime stepped from shadows, hand on sword. Robert bellowed. Steel hissed. Barristan interposed, white cloak flaring. Ned leapt between Kingslayer and King, voice hoarse. No blood in the child's chamber. Robert's chest heaved. He backed one pace, eyes aflame. Guards, seize the Queen and Sir Jaime. Confined to Magers. Stag's lust blinded, no more. Gold cloaks hesitated. Half sworn to Tywin. Barristan barked command. A dozen white cloaks advanced. Jaime's hand flexed. Cersei laid palm on his wrist. Not here, she whispered. They surrendered to custody, yet Ned felt tremor in castle walls as though dragons stirred within stone. 3 dawns passed under grim skies. Tywin rode from capital, banners furled. But word came he gathered 30,000 men at Casterly Rock. Stannis sailed to Dragonstone to muster fleet. Renly vanished with 50 knights toward Storm's End, whispers of rose banners in his wake. The realm split like ice at Thaw-da-da. In Red Keep Nursery, Daenerys sat atop a cushioned stool, watching snow flurries drift beyond lattice. She hummed nonsense tune each time a flake touched iron bars, as though beckoning winter to play. Edric, arm in sling, knelt sharpening dagger. He spoke quiet. Snowflakes melt on skin, princess, but some fires hide inside cold until time. She looked at him. Solemn. Drakkar, cold fire. He smiled despite pain. Cold fire. Ned entered, carrying parchment. Edric, a ship awaits at Blackwater mouth. You sail tonight for White Harbor with Lady Shira and 20 men. Take the princess. Nam. Edric's brows shot up. Run? Now? Guard, Ned corrected. War marches. She must be far from crowns when swords cross. He handed sealed scroll. Deliver to Lady Stark. Keep her beyond passes until I call. Edric bowed. My life for hers. Ned turned to Daenerys. Little one, you ride another road. North again, where wolves roam. She blinked, then reached to touch wolf clasp on his cloak. He tousled her hair. Fear not. The winter town bakes honey cakes for brave girls. She smiled. In her hand she still clutched silver stag and dragonglass key. Ned felt weight of prophecy settle. If I fail, the story of kings will hinge on a child's 2 small fists. Night cloaked their escape. Rain masked hoofbeats down muddy lane to mud gate. Varys met them beside covered wagon, candle shielded by sleeve. The Queen's loyalists search the river, but my birds roost in every reed. Go swift. Edric nodded, eyes wary. Thank you, Lord Varys. The eunuch knelt to Daenerys, voice soft as threads. Remember, little flame, songs grow bright in cold hearths when sung by kind tongues. He tucked a paper flower behind her ear, lilac petals folded from parchment. She giggled. Wheels creaked into night. Ned watched until lantern faded. When he turned, Varys was gone like smoke. Sunless dawn tinged green from storm clouds when Robert summoned council to throne room. He wore black armor, stag rampant across breast. Tyrell envoy stood to one side, offering 50,000 spears if Margaery wed Joffrey or Renly. Stannis demanded recognition as heir should bastardy proven. Pettier Baelish whispered of coin to buy sell sales from Myr. Each voice vied like crows. Robert silenced all with lifted hammer. War looms, but not for dragons, for truth. Cersei's treachery ends Baratheon claim of her cubs. The realm needs a hand and a protector until rightful heir stands. I name Eddard Stark regent should I fall. Ned stiffened. Baelish's smile vanished. Stannis tugged beard. Robert continued. Summon lords in 30 days to great council. Let them choose line rightful. Stannis, Renly, or else. Until then, the Iron Throne will crush any banner raised without my leave. Tywin withdraw his host or face wrath. Now. He dismissed them. Some bowed, others scowled. But storm seeds scattered on stone. Beyond Cracklaw Point, Eastern Star tacked north following rumor of the fleeing princess. Moreo's spyglass caught white-sailed galley hugging coast. Maiden's Honor's sister ship. Viserys paced deck, hair plastered, eyes furnace bright. At last. My sister. My throne. Jorah watched gulls wheel. Should we meet steel, do you still command courage? Viserys drew rusty dagger. I am the blood of the dragon. Wind tore his words away. Eastern star gained under cover of squall. Night fell inky. Grapnels, thrown. But when cell sails boarded, they found holds stacked with sacks of barley and turnips. No princess. The ship was decoy from White Harbor. Viserys shrieked, stabbing canvas. She mocks me. Moreo cursed lost time. In fury, Viserys ordered sails south to King's Landing itself, to take his birthright by fire. Jorah gripped rail. Somewhere in dark, waves whispered of fates entwined like seaweed. He thought of Bear Island snows and a little girl's fearless violet eyes. He prayed silent that Ned Stark's north would hold her safe. Winter fell. Fortnight later, Catelyn opened tower window to a sunset flaming gold on snowdrifts. Edric's column approached, banners furled for secrecy. She rushed down. Robb and the girls followed. Daenerys jumped from wagon into Robb's arms, squealing. Gray wind bounded, tail sweeping snow. The child reached to the direwolf's muzzle. Beast nuzzled gentle. A hush fell. Wolf and dragon share unspoken truce. Within hall, Edric delivered Ned's letter. Catelyn read, tears glistening. She folded parchment, addressed men. We guard her, as winter guards the land. No Lannister foot crosses neck while Stark hearts beat. Maester Luwin added candles to Hearttree Shrine. Prayers for Ned. In Godswood, Daenerys traced face of Weirwood anew, murmuring Drakkar as wind hissed through red leaves. Snowflakes swirled, yet none melted on her palm. They steamed faint before vanishing. South, war brewed. Tywin refused Robert's ultimatum, marched to Riverlands. Jaime rode ahead and seized River Run scouts. Stannis blockaded King's Landing, holding Blackwater mouth. Renly crowned himself at Highgarden. Banners of golden rose and stag twined. The realm cracked into three. Robert rode to confront Renly, hammer in hand, but bore mauling wounds reopened from Pike. Fever set. On Bitterbridge Field, he collapsed. Barristan bore him to tent. Ravens flew to King's Landing. Ned, now regent, unrolled missive trembling. Wound festers, send Maester. But Maester could not outrun fate. Robert died 2 days later beneath canvas smelling of blood and horse sweat. His last word, Lyanna. Though some claimed Ned. News blasted capital like wildfire. Gold cloaks, half bought by Baelish, proclaimed Joffrey King Data. Ned countered with Robert's seal, naming him regent until council convene. Streets erupted. Within hours, blood splashed cobbles. Banners tore. Littlefinger lured Ned to treasury under guise of loyalty, blades waiting. But Varys intervened. His whispers rallied Stormlander guards still true to Robert. Steel met steel. Ned escaped wounded. That night, Red Keep towers burned as factions clashed. Cersei, freed by loyal gold cloaks, fled with Joffrey to Maegor's Holdfast, sealing gates. Tyrell envoys vanished down River Road to Renly. Baelish slipped away amid chaos, coffers bulging. Varys melted. Ned, bleeding shoulder, barricaded in Tower of the Hand with Stannis newly arrived by hidden postern. The throne is empty, Stannis said, voice stone. Cersei holds it only by fear. Proclaim my right, and we end this war. Ned pressed cloth to wound. Proclaim when lords gather. Not with child hostages. Stannis nodded curt, respect mingling with impatience. Outside, dawn rose over city broken into armed camps. In Winterfell, Raven brought tidings. King Robert dead, Ned Stark wounded, capital aflame. Catelyn's knuckles whitened. Edric drew steel. Lords Robb assembled banners of North. Karstark, Bolton, Glover. Yet Catelyn clutched Daenerys's hand. This war not ours, she whispered. We guard life born of fire, not stoke wars of men. Daenerys looked to horizon. Smoke could not be seen but seemed to reflect in her eyes, violet storms swirling. She clasped dragonglass key. Snow swirled thicker, yet warmth radiated from her slight frame. In crypts beneath castle, Caitlin lit torches among stone kings. She knelt before Lyanna's statue. Your brother falls into fire to save this child. Help me keep her. Nah. Silence answered, but flame gutters leapt higher. Eastern star anchored at Blackwater mouth during haze dawn. Viserys strode bow, blade raised. City walls smoked. My throne beckons. He ordered landing party. But black sails of Stannis' fleet loomed, scorpions angled. Bolts skewered Eastern Star's mast. Moreo screamed, deck splintered. Fireships drifted unseen, detonating wildfire. Green gouts consumed hull. Viserys flailed as deck buckled. Jorah dragged him to rail, but flame licked rigging. A final roar, and the ship fractured. Viserys plunged into oily water, gold-purple cloak dragging him down. Jorah surfaced amid burning pitch, clung to wreckage, eyes stinging. When smoke cleared, no silver head broke the waves. Stannis' men hauled survivors. Jorah collapsed, mourning. In his pocket remained only a charred scrap. Half of Stark banner he once vowed to claim. He stared toward distant red keep towers smoldering. The dragon boy had perished, yet war for his sister would rage hotter. King's Landing nights turned to weeks of siege between factions. Stannis held river. Renly advanced from south. Tywin from west. Ned rallied loyalists inside walls. Riverlanders, Stormlanders, unbent gold cloaks. They called themselves Stag and Wolf Alliance. Bread dwindled. Plague whispered. In corridors, Ned spoke to Stannis beside Iron Brazier. Send word to north. Ask Robb ride south with host. We hold walls till then. Stannis' stern face cracked faint line. And if north chooses its own king, a wolf wears crown as easily as stag. Ned's eyes reflected flame. Then we end war with counsel, not steel. The girl's life is my oath to that. Thunder rolled. Far off, Siega drums answered. In Winterfell, Robb paced hall, war desires burning. Lord Bolton pressed for march south. Lord Karstark rattled sword. But Maester Luwin, unfurled scroll, sealed wolf and stag. Nan's plea for counsel, not crown. Robb hesitated. That night, he visited Godswood. Daenerys sat beneath Heart Tree, telling Arya wordless story, using smoke from candle. Robb knelt. Will you remember us, little dragon, if wolves die for your safety? She touched his chest. Wolf strong, fire friend. Her words clearer each day. Robb felt warmth under tunic where her palm lay. Resolve softened. Next council, he declared, we ride south, not to crown but to shield my father and end this madness. Lord Bolton's eyes gleamed. Motives unknown. But bannermen roared assent. Snow thawed into mud as armies stirred. Lion banners flowing from Golden Tooth, rose banners from Bitterbridge, Kraken ships raiding Tyrell coast, Dawn Knight riding in grey cloak to Winter Town raising torch for departure. Deafening drums of a realm unmade. Yet above every campfire, men whispered of the silver child guarded by direwolves in cold keep. Some spoke awe, some greed. They called her the Frost Dragon, the Flame and Snow, the White Ember. In her chamber, Daenerys traced cracks in weirwood carving once more, whispering to unseen winds. When she pressed dragonglass key into knot, the heart tree shivered, though no storm blew. Bark parted a hair, revealing dark hollow. From within glimmered faint red light, heartbeat of some slumbering power. Edric hurried, scooping her away. Not yet, little star. Let sleeping gods lie. Outside, the horn of gathering sounded. Wolves howled. Snow melted where Daenerys stepped, tiny footprints steaming. She looked back to Hearttree, eyes reflecting ember glow. And for the first time she smiled not as child but as something older, as though blood memory stirred. Echo of riders who once crossed sea on wings of fire to claim new world. And the story marched on, each footfall of war beating like Smith's hammer shaping steel. Like dragon heart stirring in snow, forging a destiny no king, wolf, lion, or stag could yet foresee. Okay. Snow dusted the silent battlements of Winterfell in ghost-quiet spirals, soft enough that no sentry noticed the footprints at first. Small prints, drifting eastward atop the inner wall walk, each one melting at the edges, though the night air lay well below freezing. A solitary torch guttered in its iron socket, while the direwolf kennel below murmured with muffled growls. Far off, horns for the dawn patrol had not yet blown. Only the weirwood kept watch, its red leaves tremoring in some invisible current, breath too subtle for man or beast. At the far end of the eastern rampart, where two merlins framed a view toward the wolfswood, Daenerys paused. The girl stood only 3 feet high, wrapped in a wolf pelt cloak stitched hastily to fit her shoulders, silver hair teased by the wind. In one fist, she held the silver stag medallion, its surface rubbed dull by constant worry. In the other, the dragon glass key Varys had once slipped into her palm. She raised the key, studying how moonlight chased prisms across the obsidian edges. Below, the darkened courtyards breathed faint sparks of sleeping embers. Somewhere, a raven croaked, restless. Daenerys tilted her head, as though hearing a sound no one else could. Something distant, something old. Then she stepped off the parapet. She did not fall. Snow billowed beneath her feet like upturned feathers. Swirling into a column that slowed the descent. She landed knee-deep in powder, looking neither surprised nor frightened, and padded across the yard toward the Godswood Gate. The gate's iron latches, crusted with frost, lifted on their own with a squeal that should have wrung the kennels awake. Yet no dog barked, no guard stirred. Daenerys slipped through. Closing behind her, the gate sighed shut as though lulled by lullaby. Within the Godswood, every pine and weir oak glistened under a veneer of rime, trunks black against the paler snow. The heart tree loomed ahead, its face weeping sap the color of blood in candlelight. Daenerys approached, boots crunching softly. She laid the dragonglass key upon the carved lips of the tree, and the red sap seeped over the obsidian like wax over stone. A crack sounded, faint yet distinct, and the bark behind the face split a finger's width, revealing a hollow cavity, bright with reddish glow, pulsing like the throb of a distant forge. Daenerys reached inside. Her small fingers closed around something warm, metallic. An egg, perhaps, but smaller, shaped not by nature but by craft. When she drew it out, the glow dimmed, the crack sealed with a hiss, and the key crumbled to fine ash that scattered across the snow. The object in her palm was no egg at all, a sphere of tarnished bronze etched with runes, ridged like dragon scales, the size of a sparrow's heart. Within, a glow beat slow, rhythmic, golden. She cradled it to her chest, eyes wide, and whispered the single Valyrian syllable she had uttered on the deck of Maiden's Honor. Dracarys? The glow brightened, then faded to a low ember. Across the courtyard walls, torches finally flared as the dawn watch called out. Booted feet pounded, horns brayed, gray direwolves began to howl. Yet when Robb Stark burst into the Godswood with his guard, sword naked, gray wind at heel, they found only the little princess kneeling in snow, studying a silent heart tree. The sphere had vanished. No ashes remained. Robb kneeled before her, heart thudding beneath wolf fur mantle. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice breaking with relief when she shook her head. She pointed to the tree, then patted her own chest where the sphere's ember light had faded. Robb stood slowly, scanning branches for intruders. Nothing but ravens. Gray wind sniffed, hackles stiff, then let out a questioning whine that sounded almost respectful. At last, Robb scooped Daenerys into his arms and carried her back toward the keep, giving orders for doubled watches and prayers beside the heart tree. Edric Dane arrived moments later, sling off, ready blade in hand, eyes darting. Seeing the girl unharmed, he exhaled a breath he seemed to have held for years. 300 leagues south, in the gallery of the Red Keep's throne room, dust tasted of blood and smoke. Ned Stark stood bareheaded beneath painted windows that flickered orange from siege fires, licking the city's horizon. His arm, stitched by Grand Maester Gorman after Pacel's incarceration, throbbed beneath stiff linen, but he forced his breathing steady as he read Robert's final sealed writ aloud to those assembled. Lannister lions clustered behind Maegor's door guards. Tyrell envoys in green and gold murmured half-heard calculations. Rose banners awaited Renly's arrival on the river, and in the far end of the hall Stannis Baratheon leaned like iron on the haft of a morning star, square jaw set. "Until the great council seats, Lord Eddard Stark shall rule in my stead, regent and protector of the realm," Ned concluded. The words hung in the smoky air. Some lords shifted, others stared stone-faced. Joffrey, seated on a gilded chair set well below the Iron Throne, scowled. His mother's cell lay 4 towers distant, and though she wore irons she had left him cutting rhetoric like whetted blades. Sir Meryn Trant stepped forward in gold-lacquered plate. "Sir Jaime Lannister claims trial by combat to prove his queen's innocence," he said. "Who denies the Kingslayer the right of arms?" Barristan Selmy answered without turning from the Iron Throne. "A combat cannot wash away the stain of Kingslayn and incest alike, Sir Meryn. Evidence will." A hiss scattered among the gold cloaks. Littlefinger lounged by a pillar, expression unreadable, save for amusement glowing like a banked coal. Renly was still days' ride away with Highgarden's banners, Tywin a fortnight from the Trident massing steel, and Stannis had sealed the Blackwater with his fleet, cutting off the sea road. King's Landing had become a board set for a dozen games all played at once. Upon hearing the testament, Stannis stepped beside Ned, so that the lords could see 2 men shoulder to shoulder, wolf and stag, bound by blood of friendship where rightful succession failed. "Lord Regent," Stannis rumbled, granting the title grudging respect. "Every hour we delay naming treason as treason invites chaos. Summon the Great Council now, seated in the sept, before Tywin's iron or Renly's silks decide matters unswayed by law." Ned nodded. "The ravens fly tonight." He dismissed the hall, and the lords scattered like startled starlings, each fluttering off to their own plotting eaves. Littlefinger caught Ned's sleeve at the threshold. "You trump the throne with old parchment and wounded honor," he whispered. "But coins buy sell spears quicker than parchments raise councils. Shall I turn the Iron Bank's purse in your favor?" Ned stared at him, remembering nightshade ledgers and spears now pointing at Winterfell's gates in rumor. "Buy bread," he said, jerking his arm free. "Or coffins. Whichever the folk need first." Petter's laughter followed him down the corridor. Light, hollow, gone before the guards caught the echo. Down Riverland's track south of the Green Fork, 2,000 Northmen followed Robb Stark's banner on a forced march del Wee. Snow still clung to their boots, but the air smelled of churned earth and first buds of spring. Edmure Tully had opened River Run's grain houses to their columns after a white raven announced Robert's death. Yet birds arriving from the south carry heavier news. Tywin's levies approaching Harrenhal, Renly's gay banners meeting with Mace Tyrell, beyond Bitterbridge, and rumors of bright green fire tested upon river barges as Stannis sealed the bay. Robb rode ahead of the vanguard, grey wind loping at his stirrup. Edric Dane rode beside him, Daenerys nestled carefully in a padded basket slung across the front of Edric's saddle. The princess slept amid linen and direwolf fur, though her fingers maintained constant grip on that silver stag. "She dreams fitfully," Edric murmured. "Of what?" Robb kept eyes on horizon. The night considered. Wings and shadow. Robb shivered despite the mild air. They had passed deserted villages, charred by reavers wearing lion badges embroidered crudely on surcoats. When gray wind scented carrion, Robb's scouts found small folk crucified along the road, children included, eyes plucked by crows. The message was plain. The Lion Lord would spare no child north or south, hostage or not. Ahead lay Moat Caelan's stone ribs, long captured by Greywater raiders loyal to House Reed. Robb hoped to rest there. Yet as the column made camp on the southern bank, a silent rider emerged, a man in black scale with green frog spears on his back. Howland Reed's eldest son, Joian, grown lean and broad-shouldered, came bearing news from his father and Ned's last raven. "The trident swells with enemy," Joachim reported in soft rasp. "My father's green scene shows storm and fire both. He says guide the white flame east to Grey Water." His eyes flicked to Daenerys. Then he reached inside a satchel, producing a parchment dotted with strange runes. "She must drink the water dancing, or winter will drink her." Robb frowned, but the cryptic letter held Reed's sigil. He decided to split his force. Bolton and Karstark south along the King's Road to draw Tywin's eye, while Robb with Dane and half the Manderley foot would veer east through Neck Marshes, carrying Daenerys toward Greywater Watch. "A bold flank will bring Tywin off balance," Bolton agreed, though cold emptiness gleamed behind his smile. So into the Neck they plunged, mosses steaming under midday sun, frogs bellowing like siege horns. A week's march bogged them in knee-deep water and sudden sinkholes disguised by reed mats. Reed scouts guided them along tors floating like rafts. At night, will-o'-wisps danced beyond watchfires. Daenerys seemed to delight in the green-blue lights, clapping in Edric's lap until she fell asleep. Reed women fed her bog plum mash that smelled of pepper and salt, promising it keeps the moon inside from misbehaving. Robb could only trust their lore. Halfway to Greywater, thunder split the evening sky. No cloud accompanied it. Orange glow burst beyond a tree-lined marsh as though the sun itself had fallen. Scouts returned babbling. Lion banners, ironborn kraken shields, sellswords all, firing bogs with jars of luminescent pitch. The fire hissed across stagnant pools, sending plumes of emerald vapor that clung low, choking men and beasts. The Reed guides called it ghost fire, a secret known only to Danes of pyromancy gone wrong. Robb ordered retreat to higher tors. But pockets of flame erupted unpredictably. One torchbearer slipped into a sinkhole, screamed as liquefied pitch rolled across water and climbed his skin like living tar. He vanished beneath green glare. Flame reflected in Daenerys' violet eyes. As Robb lifted her onto the saddle before him, she pressed palms together and whispered that same word again. "Dracarys?" From the edge of the bog, a sheet of ghost fire flared whiter, then abruptly guttered out as if snuffed by an unseen gale. Steam belched in its wake, clearing a path through which Northmen hurried, eyes wide. Edric looked between girl and spent firebed, and for the first time none dared speak of sorcery. It had become too plain. They reached Greywater Watch by dawn, a fortress that seemed grown from mangroves rather than quarried, its towers swaying lightly on immense black roots, always shifting with the tides as rumors said. Howland Reed welcomed them, gray streaks marking beard, crone-like yet quick-eyed. He bowed to Daenerys, addressing her in soft Valyrian accented like river water. The princess responded with halting syllables, surprising even Edric. Howland produced from his satchel a carved horn inlaid with grey weirwood. For centuries the Neck kept secrets older than Valyria. He told Robb, "In these mires sleeps iron and seed of dragons long dead, but not all bones rot the same. Your little flame bears a spark I can only shelter for a while. Smother it and darkness wins. Nurture it rashly and the world may burn. We must choose the third path. Let the fire of her blood meet the ice of yours, so steam may turn the wheel, not shatter it." Robb bristled. "Speak plainly, Lord." Howland smiled. "You will kneel beside her in the God's Eye and see." Meanwhile, the siege of King's Landing teetered on three knives. Inside the walls, Ned Stark's loyal host held the Mud Gate and the Iron Gate. Stannis controlled Blackwater Bay and the River Gate. Joffrey's remaining gold cloaks locked Maegor's Holdfast. Tyrell forces ringed the Roserwad's outer suburbs, feeding small folk bread and songs promising gentle Renly and his bride Margaery. Farther west, Tywin's host thundered across Sarsfield, the green fork of the Trident already streaked with dust of crossing feet. The Hand's Tower served as nerve center, its narrow halls hummed with scribes issuing offers of safe conduct to lords willing to side against incest kings. Davos Seaworth arrived secretly with barrels of winter stores and letters from Dragonstone. He and Ned pored over harbor charts by candle, planning how to slip Stannis' ships upriver to relieve bread shortage. At night, Ned dreamed of Lyanna's grave and woke tasting blood. One smoky dusk, Varys conducted a mysterious visitor to Ned's solar. Jorah Mormont, salt-stained, one arm bound from wildfire burns. He fell to one knee. "I would see the realm saved," he rasped. "I hunted the princess by Viserys' command. He is dead. My sins remain. Take my sword for her." Ned studied the bare-sigilled man, weighing loyalty once sold for coin. At last he accepted Jorah's oath, placing a stark dagger in his palm. "Then you ride north at first light with 10 of my best. Find Robb. Guard her better than you once hunted her." Jorah bent head, shoulders shaking with a breath that might have been gratitude or guilt. At Greywater, Howland Reed knelt with Robb and Daenerys before the knee-deep pool, a mirror-still pond rimmed in ghostgrass glowing faint as will-o'-wisps. He instructed them to drink a draught, brewed with crushed black moss, ice-fire tea. Robb grimaced at the taste, mint over iron, but swallowed. Daenerys drank without a blink. The water's surface rippled, reflections shifted. Robb saw Winterfell's towers melting into Dragonstone spires. Daenerys glimpsed a forest of crystal shards glinting snow-white under red-eyed moon. Wind whistled through unseen gallery, singing words Robb half knew. "Promise me, promise me." When they rose, Howland held aloft the Greenseer horn. "Blow this once when the cold star rises highest," he told Daenerys, "and gates shall open in places no man alive remembers, but blow it twice, and all roads will burn." The princess traced the horn's runes, but did not yet raise it to lips. She simply nodded, solemn as a winter queen. Thunderheads massed south. Banners of lion and rose drew near, vying for first strike at capital's bleeding heart. Ravens carried word of Robb's split. Tywin angled east to smash the Bolton flank, unaware of Bolton's own secret correspondences. In silent camps under lion banners, Roosey's bastard Ramsay sharpened flaying knives, eyeing opportunity in chaos. Bolton's men met Lannister outriders near Maidenpool and feigned flight. Tywin gave chase, believing North Host broken. Instead he plunged into reed-laid quagmire fields where spiked pits awaited. When his vanguard bogged down, Karstark horse charged flanks, and Crannogmen darts felled command banners. Tywin fought free but lost 2 companies. Fear of marsh ghosts spread through ranks. Tywin had to halt, building corduroy roads while Karstark harassed by night. War slowed to grinding sludge. Back in King's Landing, Ned seized moment. He led dawn raid on Maegor's Holdfast while Stannis feigned major assault at River Gate. With Barristan and Davos, he cut through sleepy gold cloaks and reached the Queen's Tower. Joffrey fled across ramparts, but Davos crossbowmen pinned him. The boy surrendered sobbing, crown askew. Cersei, still ironbound, spat curses as Barristan announced her trial for treason. The throne room, deserted, echoed with boots and battle cries from distant gates. Hours later Ned stood again before the Iron Throne. Sword sheathed, scroll in hand. He proclaimed Stannis rightful heir, by Robert's will and by law of birth, until great council met. Lords present murmured in awe. Some hissed. The city waited, breath held. But even as Ned bridged lawful crown to the elder stag, Varys delivered dire news. Wildfire caches hidden since King Aerys' reign had been stolen during the chaos. Hundreds of clay pots missing, enough to burn half a city. Whispers claimed Littlefinger's men spirited them to Tyrell camps to barter promises. Others blamed Tyrion Lannister, unseen since first riots. The pots might sit under cobblestones ready to ignite with one spark, or sail upriver strapped to merchant hulls. Knowing a firestorm could cook small folk alive, Ned hardened. He commanded search of every cellar, threatened maesters with iron for silence. Yet hours trickled by, and no hidden trove appeared. Panic nipped at his heels. On the eve of summer's first day, as twin moons hung low, Robb's reduced host departed Greywater Watch by secret causeway. Howland remained, but Jojen rode with them, his eyes green gold and lucid as cats. They moved north of Harrenhal's smoking ruins, bypassing Tywin's rebuilding lines. The Ghostfire bog still smoldered behind them, blowing sickly haze south. cover for escape. Daenerys rode between Edric and Jorah, horns slung across her back in cloth bag. She sang quiet Valyrian nursery tune that stirred reeds into hush. At dusk on the third march, riders of the Night's Watch appeared, Benjen stark among them, cloaks ragged. They brought news, wildlings streaming south of the wall, stories of shadows with skull-bright eyes, corpses walking under aurora skies. Benjen had ridden to warn the king but found only war. He now sought Robb. "Whatever crown sits in south, winter comes for all," he said, voice hoarse. "If the wall falls, every victory here is ash." Robb looked at Daenerys, then to his uncle. "We ride to father first. Then we ride north again with every sword." Benjen's eyes flicked briefly to the girl. Something unspoken passed between them, faint glow in her pupils like mirrored moonlight. He bowed. "Ace, you say?" In the capital, Stannis concluded interrogation of Pycelle, extracting confession laced with weeping. Maester named Cersei's orders. Nightshade measured precisely by Clyburn, a dismissed torchbearer from Old Town now hiding in basement of Chataya's brothel. Guards hunted. Cersei, brought before lords, spat at Stannis' boots and screamed of prophecy. "Silver fire will drown wolf blood, and your stone heart will crack beneath crown of ash." She was hauled away, sentenced to confinement in silent cells. Ned penned scrolls to every great house, proof of incest, precedents of law, condemnation of wildfire threat. Yet he knew words might founder against steel. He dispatched Barristan and Davos with 100 seasoned knights north along Roserad, to find Robb and escort him safely to council. The city braced. Then, 2 nights before midsummer, a rumble like mountains colliding shuddered through the red keep. Flames speared sky behind Flea Bottom, green pillars, spraying embers. Wildfire stores hidden beneath the slum had been ignited. A chain of explosions ripped through shanties. Roofs became firewheels. The black water reflected sorcerous emerald. Screams rose like flutes. Ned raced along battlements. Smoke blasted into eyes. From towers he saw Stannis' ships heave at anchor amid green whirlpools. Some caught alight and burst, falling like molten comets. Davos' flagship, Black Beth, roared but survived, cords ablaze yet hull intact. Davos cut burning rigging with axe, swore salt-soaked curses. He signaled crews to push wreckage against currents, forming barriers to steer flames away from piers. Half the fleet burned, yet the river did not boil entirely. On the wall over Lion Gate, a cloaked figure laughed, brandishing torch. Petyr Baelish, hair whipping in furnace wind. He dropped the torch onto last cart of wildfire rolling toward Gatehouse, setting himself between both armies. As flames whooshed up, Littlefinger leapt over parapet, cloak snapping like raven wings. He vanished into smoke, his laughter echoing. The blast shredded Gatehouse, killing 30. But the stone arch held. Barristan, riding north at the time, felt quake beneath his charger's hooves, glimpsed green sunrise behind him. "God save them," he muttered, and spurred harder. After 3 days of bucket lines, naval pumps, and prayers, the fire was out, laundering sky into sooty dawn pallor. Half of Flea Bottom smoldered, thousands dead or fled. Ned's council met amid ash. Stannis' rage thundered, but Davos counseled restraint. Win small folk, or lose the war regardless of crowns. They opened granaries, loosed silver to rebuild shacks, suspended harbor tolls. Many wept thanks, others cursed whichever lord had sparked hellfire. The Great Council finally assembled on the island in the Blackwater Rush known as the Isle of the Gods, neutral ground between city and fleet. 33 great lords attended. Ravens replaced absent cowards. Stannis advanced claim by birth. Renly's envoys argued youth and love of realm. Ned pled unity under law. Tyrell, swayed by wildfire horror, tilted to Ned's camp. River lords crippled by lion raids seethed for justice. Only Westerman lords withheld, citing captured heirs. On the second night of debate, ravens arrived bearing sealed letters from Robb. Bolton host defeated Tywin along Weeping Water. Karstark holding Golden Tooth. Robb's force approaching the capital, with Night's Watch Rangers and a nameless fire to present. Murmurs rippled. If the North marched now, the Lion would be cornered. Ned stepped before council, voice rough from smoke days. Hear me. War north of the wall threatens all. The living walk, the dead rise. I propose we crown no king this night. We instead form a council of 3 regions. Stannis for law, Renly for peace, and myself for justice, until the threat beyond wall ended. After, we shall hold election by great council to choose rightful monarch, mayhap the same 3 or another. Gasps. Murmurs. Stannis' brow nodded, but he bowed stiffly. Renly arrived at last, cloak scented of Tyrell rose, smiled with effortless charm, and nodded. Many lords exhaled. Yet just as accord seemed at hand, a herald stumbled in. Blood spattered. Lion scouts breached river gate. Tywin approached under truce flag, demanding council audience before dawn, or he would storm without quarter. Behind him rode 2,000 Braavosi crossbowmen in iron harlequin armor, sellswords unswayed by talk of undead. The lords broke into chaos. Some shouted to arm, others to parley. Ned caught his breath. Time had run thin. He cursed Baelish, Cersei, and every whisper that fed the fire. Far north of capital, Robb's column reached Maidenpool's outskirts on same night. Torches dotted hillside. Bolton's remnant joined. From their vantage they saw Lion banners massed west, Tywin's outriders decamping to push on capital. Karstark scouts relayed numbers. 20,000. Weary, but still hammer. Robb gathered captains by moonlit thicket around Grey Wind. We strike tonight, but only to cut road, not to destroy, he said. And at dawn we ride for King's Landing. Edric drew steel. Jorah hammered mail. The reeds loosed marsh vipers in lion tents, sowing panic. When horns blew, Northmen slammed into supply wagons, lighting pitch. Grey Wind tore through lines, sowing terror. Tywin's columns wheeled, confusion fracturing. By sunrise, gold cloaks fled west, leaving road to capital open. Robb's force galloped south, leaving fires and broken wagons. Daenerys rode Jorah's saddle now, horn bound across her back. She watched banners flap, her gloved hands clutching sphere hidden beneath cloak. The bronze orb she'd drawn from Hearttree, still faintly warm. Storm clouds bunched as they neared the Blackwater. Reed women whispered old prophecy. The storm god and the sea dragon wrestling, while a white ember falls to earth. Lightning carved sky, and thunder answered like drums. Stannis' sailors spotted Robb's outriders by noon, flares raised. Ned rode out across Plank Bridge to greet his son for first time since Winterfell snows. They clasped arms, no words between father and son, until Ned's eyes rested on the princess. He touched her cheek. She leaned into calloused palm. Just then, trumpets blared from the Lion Gate, the truce flag of Tywin. The old lion rode beneath gold banner, armor scuffed, but back straight. Beside him, 2 caged prisoners hung from wagon. The imp Tyrion, and one more. Ramsay Snow, bloodied. Tywin dismounted, approached the council pavilion set beyond the rush. 1,000 spears ringed the clearing. Archers lining battlements kept arrows nocked. Tywin surveyed Ned, Stannis, Renly, Robb, Daenerys. A tableau none had foreseen. I come to sue for peace, he declared, voice a rasp. He gestured to Daenerys. Give me the dragon girl. Remove siege, and I march home. Crown whomever you please. Gasps rang. Stannis' knuckles whitened. Ned stepped forward. She is under my protection. Tywin's gaze hardened. Then she's a spark in dry forest. Keep her, and the realm burns. He gestured to invisible war lines all around. I offer steel, gold, and marriages to unite houses under one banner. Mine or yours matters not, only stability. Renly smiled thinly. Stability purchased with a child's death tastes bitter. Tywin's cape snapped in wind. Tell that to the mothers in Flea Bottom. At that, Daenerys stepped forward. Silence plunged. She clutched the bronze sphere to chest, looked to Ned. No burn, she said, clear, ringing voice that startled lords. She pointed to Tywin, then to the Blackwater where still floated hissing lumps of half-doused wildfire. Big burn. Thunder hit. Sphere in her hands glowed brighter, runes flared crimson. Tywin's eyes widened a fraction. Reed voices chanted from lines behind. Ice to steam, fire to dream. Wind blasted pavilion. Banners whipped. Ned raised hand. Enough. The council will deliberate. He turned to Tywin. Withdraw beyond the rush until dusk, and answer by sunset. Tywin's jaw ticked. He bowed stiffly. Remounted. Horns sounded retreat. Ned watched lions recede. Heart pounding harder than any battlefield charge. Council convened in hastily pitched tent. Candle flames, dancing. Robb argued Tywin would never keep terms. Stannis vowed to break him by dawn, trusting wildfire remainders stored in Dragonstone holdfasts for final battle. Renly pleaded hearts and minds. If we slaughter Lannisters now, Rose and Lionfield will sow forever. Ned listened, then looked to Daenerys. She sat cross-legged on woven rug. Sphere glowing pulses that matched her heartbeat. The realm built on dread will crumble, he murmured. He thought of undead beyond wall. Of Walker whispers Benjen spoke. Wars of thrones seemed small before that shadow. He stood. We choose another path. He explained Reed prophecy. Sphere. Horn. We will not yield her, nor will we trade screams for silence. Instead, at sunrise we march north. To wall, all banners. We leave behind garrisons to keep peace, but our war is with death. Stannis scowled. Abandoned throne? The throne will remain empty until threat gone. Ned turned on Stannis' words. Swear on honor of Baratheon. After long moment, Stannis inclined head. Renly extended hand. Stannis took it awkwardly. Robb laid sword across both palms. Davos planted Black Beth's splintered mast fragment in turf as new banner. Broken stag-wolf sewed by reed women, white ember at its heart. Daenerys rose, approached Ned. She pressed Sphere into his hands. It vibrated warm. He looked at it, then her. She nodded. He understood without words. It is not mine, but it is mine to guard until the darkness lifts. He knelt, draped his direwolf cloak about her. Outside horns sounded again. Not Tywin's, but from river direction. Green flames flickered once more across waves, but this time weak, ephemeral. A single Braavosi cog had ignited through mishap. Stannis' men dragged it ashore, dousing. The omen seemed to affirm Council's choice. Wildfire's reign would fade. At sunset, Ned walked to middle of pontoon bridge strung over the Blackwater. Across, Tywin waited in burnished plate. Crimson cloak rippling. Behind him, lions stoked cookfires. Beyond Ned, wolves and stags mingled. The two men approached, unarmed. Lord Tywin, Ned called across 6 feet of plank. The council refuses your bargain. We ask you instead to join us north. Swear loyalty to Regent's council, march to wall. Tywin's eyes narrowed. You propose a fool's errand after spurning my mercy? Ned met him with ice. We choose to fight the true enemy. Tywin's lips twisted. Even were I to believe ghost tales, what of vengeance? You hold my daughter, my grandchildren. They will stand trial by lords after war against death is done. Ned's voice softened. I will not harm them. Tywin glanced at the sky. First star glimmered. He sighed. Long have I waged war for legacy. Legacy means little in grave. He looked back. I march. On one condition, my grandson's life guaranteed. Ned nodded. And the dragon child? Keep her, Tywin muttered. Plague and cure in one. He extended gauntlet. Ned clasped it. A thunderclap echoed. In distance, wolves howled. Call that rolled across fields, taken up by roses, cranes, even some lion throats. A new host formed before dawn. Northern spears, Stormland galleys, Reach knights, Westerland heavies, Vale archers, Riverland outriders, Crannogman scouts, Night's Watch rangers in black, and at their heart a small girl atop white pony, horn on her back, silver hair loose beneath deer-wolf tooth circlet. South of her rode 2 stags, Stannis and Renly, flanking Ned Stark, Dido. Robb bore the broken mast banner. Tywin rode slightly behind, armored in doubt and iron. Above them, the first white raven of true winter wheeled croaking omen. Ahead, roads curled north through war-scarred fields already dusted new frost. Far beyond, the wall rose like a pale scar across world's edge. And beyond that, something stirred that had waited generations for exactly this gathering. This union of ice and fire. Daenerys pressed horn to her lips but did not blow. She simply whispered, so soft none heard but the wind, Dracarys. The horn pulsed once, then fell silent, saving its breath for whatever door would need opening when night grew deepest. The combined host began to march, hooves thudding a rhythm that seemed to echo the steady beat of that unseen ember inside bronze. Fire banked, not quenched, until the hour demanded flame. And from the smoldering city they left behind, sparks drifted skyward like ascending souls, dissipating into the vast evening as if to mark the turning of an age, the moment when thrones ceased to matter, and the fight for dawn had begun.